that. Hold on. He says.
Let's see if it breaks
No
everything.
idea what you're talking about.
So Craig is the bot that
Yeah.
we like to use to do the recording. But the problem is that it does seem to mess a little bit with the live stream. But yeah, and what it does is it will record this and makes it much easier for making the show. In the past, we all used to have our own separate Audacity streams, which would then upload onto the next cloud, and then Bill would put them all together and stuff. And then there was one week when it was actually when we were doing OTC. Bill wasn't going to be there, and Leo said, "Oh, why don't we just use Craig?" And we're like, "Craig? What's Craig? Who's Craig? Who's Craig?" Da-da. So, yeah, that's Craig.
But he looks a bit temperamental. He looks a bit startled, actually.
Yeah, oh man. Do you remember Little Britain?
I never watched that. No, I could never get into that at all. No.
So I mean, there used to be this guy that would turn up to a shop, and he'd always ask for something really ridiculous, like, can I go into a painting shop and be like, can I get a painting of a demented horse? And then the guy would kind of just go, Margaret, man wants a demented horse of a painted, this, that, and the other. And he'd then show him a painting, and he'd go, that one doesn't look demented. That one looks more like apprehensive.
I should really try and catch up on those. I know I never watched it.
Put it this way, even at the time, which was early 2000s, I remember thinking to myself, this is a bit dodgy. Do you know what I mean? They're taking the piss out of everybody. Like disabled people.
Front, left, front, right.
Why can't I hear you guys? Awesome. Again, I can't. We're all locked up again. Can you guys hear me? Test.
Oh, Joe's
So you
back.
just needed a reboot.
The second one? All right, let's see. Everybody should be able to see and hear us again. Sorry about that, guys.
Well, now Majid's having problems. So
Yeah, it looks like he's
who's got their
frozen.
video playing?
I do. Majid just dropped out.
Oh, I love this job.
Welcome back, Joe.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
You know what? Everybody turn the video on. It'll be fun. It's Joe.
Okay. We're streaming. We are live, people. Who's hosting? Am I hosting? Charlie hosting?
I'm not ready for that yet.
Not ready for that.
I would need to practice a bit.
You're never
Oh,
going
it's
to be
me.
ready. There's no practice. There's the deep end.
Oh no. Next time, I promise you. Next time, I will be.
Well, you gotta wait. Majid's not on. He was having microphone
I
problems.
know. I was just seeing if it was discussed, while I was busy fixing shit.
You gotta get Craig's thing off of there too.
It's not on there.
It is.
For you, it is.
No.
For the
Yeah,
stream, it's
yeah.
not.
You're right. Okay. Yeah, you're good. Not bad. All right, I'm gonna leave you to it then.
Okay, can somebody check
But-
the live stream? Thanks, Bill.
Yeah, no problem.
Can somebody check the live stream and see how that looks and sounds?
Does somebody have it handy?
YouTube.com. If you're subscribed, it'll pop right up.
I don't have YouTube on my stuff. Sorry.
If I do that,
Go
we'll
to
get
the-
Inception on the stream. So
Let me try and.
I'm trying to live stream on my TV. I see video.
Can you hear us talking? Test,
I'm waiting
test.
for audio.
Test 1 2 1 2. According to OBS, you have your audio, I have my audio, and it's all going through.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see.
Yeah.
Yes, I can hear you on the lot.
Awesome. Well, then we're just waiting for mod. Yes, you have your audio, I have my audio, and it's all going through. Yep. Okay.
I'm a minute behind.
That's going to be a little behind. You're way across that pond there. It takes a little while.
Yeah. Pigeons.
All right. A Londoner says that he can only hear me and that there is no video. But you guys checked and you're doing good there.
Came up for
I
me.
see Majid.
Yeah, I have video
Am I
on the
back?
live stream.
Yeah, you're there.
What's my audio like?
Pass.
Still in
Tap
that
the
toilet.
microphone.
Oh, fuck's sake. Okay. Hold on.
Language. Oh,
We're live, by the way, just in case. Just
All right. Language, Timothy. Language.
language, Timothy. Only Corbett, there's another classic.
FYI, Charlie's voice comes out seconds before his lips move.
yeah, he's got
For
some
what that's
lag
worth.
there.
Okay. Okay, is that any better? Audio?
Yeah, a little bit.
Tap the mic. So
Is it really? Am I moving?
You were.
it
Now you're
well,
good. Now you're good.
You're back in sync. It's
Oh.
like you lose it. Sometimes it loses it.
Okay. Fine. So now that this is working, that's working. We streaming
2, 3,
then.
4, 5. I
Yes.
see 5 of us, Londoner.
Okay. Let me just get the show notes up again. What?
He's saying
Okay.
that his audio over there isn't working the way that it should be.
What
Speak
in the
again, Magic.
world?
What in the world? What?
You sound a bit better already.
Yeah, no, I'm on this mic now.
That sounds better, yeah.
It looks like I've got 2 separate instances of Firefox. How did that happen? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Who cares? Nobody cares. All right. Okay, shall we make a start, gentlemen and Joe?
Who's
I can host. It's fine.
okay?
Because I'm not gonna. Because you guys are gonna be talking a lot more, so I thought it may only make sense if I do. Anybody? Okay, I'll have to make some stuff up. Okay. Welcome to mintCast, the podcast by the Linux Mint community for all users of Linux. This is episode 484, recorded on Sunday, April 26th, 2026.
Trying to get my computers to work. I'm Joe.
Got my tails up. I'm Majid.
There's always the sun. This is Charles.
Wrangler of binaries. I'm Jim.
Feeling brave. I'm Charlie.
So, first up in the Mint monthly news, news about updated Mint ISOs. And we haven't got anything in security and privacy, but we do have our wanderings. And in the wanderings, I explore Tailscale. Joe does it all again. Jim likes his binaries. Charlie is feeling brave. And Charles is doing some other stuff as well. So, and finally, at the end of that, we'll have the feedback and a couple of suggestions. Remember, if you want to follow along with our discussions, the full show notes for this episode are linked in the show's description at mintcast.org/show notes/episode 484 show notes. So, on to the news. So, the main Mint news that's occurred recently is from Londoner. It's on the Linux Mint website as well, that there are updated Mint ISOs. So, as people are aware, we're on Mint 22.3. In the past, because this was coming near to the end of the 2-year LTS cycle, Often an Edge ISO would be released, which would have the newer kernel because there would have been so many changes over the time. And so that's not been done in that specific Edge ISO way, but these ISOs are up for 22.3, have the latest 6.17 hardware enabled enablement kernel on there, so that you will get the most new, well, not the most newest, but a newer Linux kernel than the base Ubuntu 24.04, which is what Mint 22 is based on, would have. And Charles has got something about a initiatification event. Go ahead, Charles.
Thank you, Majid. Yeah, I heard this on 2.5 Admins, and I thought I'd highlight it here. Yet another enshittification moment or event by Microsoft. This is from the registry. Microsoft locks out key open source developers from Veracrypt and WireGuard, and they got no warning. Well, I should back up. The issue's been resolved, but kind of by luck, not by process. Basically, these developers were locked out. They got no warning, no notice. And when they tried to reactivate their accounts, they got the chatbot and the typical no human contact and log in and try to reset your account access. Well, if you're locked out, you can't do that. Anyway, the WireGuard developer, he did it by back channels, and it finally got to somebody that said, "Oh yes, we know this guy. We better fix him up." But anyway, it's just another shows that when service providers are doing everything automation, when automation breaks, there's no human in the loop. In particular, this case here, this WireGuard developer, there had been a critical patch to deploy or to for Windows, he wouldn't have been able to do it because he was locked out of his account. But anyway, Microsoft says that there was a I don't know, a validation breakdown in account access, if you will, and we go at the same things. Oh, we fixed the problem and shouldn't happen again. But again, when there's no human intervention or no human alerted, then you're kind of left in a lurch. And just wanted to highlight that this acidification or everything's automated, everything, nobody wants to talk to you. You're self-service, and of course they don't build into these platforms when there's an issue, when automation and chatbots break down. In the show notes there's a link to the article. So
Yeah, didn't we have this on the show for the news one 2 weeks ago? I could have sworn that was one of the articles that we brought. Not necessarily this particular article, but same topic.
I can't remember. I'll be completely honest with you.
Yeah, it could have been. I think I brought up one where Jim Salter was talking about a similar event. The admin for Microsoft 365. He was only one admin that could get into the 365 admin console. Broke his phone, and he was going around and around, like log in and reset this, and so similar type of thing. A human did get involved in that eventually, but they kept referring back to this. They couldn't understand that the person couldn't log in to do what they wanted him to do because he had no phone. And he was the only one that had admin access. So he couldn't get the notification pin.
I think we did mention something similar to this actually. Yeah.
So.
But yeah, it just shows. You're right. It's just the intuition of everything, isn't it?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it doesn't surprise me in any way, shape, or form at all.
Right, and unfortunately, it's getting worse instead of getting better. And then Microsoft
one thing I would say, is that because things are getting worse like that, you do find people are starting to get annoyed by it now. I mean, it's like a lot of what people have been talking about, the uptake for Linux, for example, because of the disaster of Windows 11. Or, for example, I was just watching a video today about how to get rid of all of your subscriptions and, go to being self-hosted. I mean, okay, there's lots of videos about that. A video by a major creator who normally, for example, reviews Apple products, talking about going self-hosted. So, that's a bit of a thing if you think about it. It's not the usual crowd of us FOSS nerds who are, talking about it. It's starting to percolate more. So there might be some unexpected wins from the institutification. Who knows?
Well, you're a lot more optimistic than I am.
Well, either that or I'm delusional. I mean, one of the two. I mean, take whichever one you wish.
Yeah,
noted.
I just saw an article in the last couple of days that I probably should have brought in, but I'll probably bring it in for the next show, talking about how everybody thinks more people are going to start losing their jobs this year to AI. There's going to be a giant exodus of jobs. See how long that lasts.
Yeah, I have a news item too about that for next show, next
Okay.
recording.
Probably
We'll
the
talk
same
about that,
one.
so. It could be the same thing. Is that the policy paper by OpenAI?
No, there
Well, as
was
they say,
a firing of
great
like
minds think alike. Great minds think alike.
There was a firing of like 4,000 people, and an executive mentioned that all big businesses were going to be doing it this year. I'd have to look up the article. So
Okay.
yeah, but anyways,
Yeah. Okay then. So we are now on to that favorite part of the show for many people, the wanderings. And in a stunning turn of events, Jim's going first.
and his notes are longer than mine.
Well, they're longer
Yeah.
than mine, I tell you. They're longer than mine.
Well, the longer the better. Those of you who are going to listen, I highly suggest you go check the show notes because I'm going to go into more detail in the show notes for a lot of this stuff. So I'm going to start out talking about key binding utilities. As a Linux user or a user of any Unix-like operating system, no matter what desktop environment or window manager you use, there should never be a situation where you cannot customize your key bindings to whatever you want. I assume we all agree with that. But the reality is that not every desktop environment or window manager allows you 100% control. There are certain key bindings that many of us are accustomed to based on your use of Windows or Mac or muscle memory, and then there's newer ones you may desire to use. And they may just not be available in every desktop environment by default. And they may not be easily able to be changed, right? For example, one that I'm used to is the common press of the left super key or the Windows key to launch an application launcher, right? When I switched to Linux Mint, I had Cinnamon and it worked just like Windows, so my muscle memory was satisfied. It's one of the many reasons I like Mint. However, not every desktop environment has that. So last month, you heard me talking about how I outsmarted the limitations in the GUI settings manager in Trixie Pup 64 Wayland, the Puppy Linux variant I used, by going into the config file of the default LabWC window manager and customizing the key bindings in ways that did not appear possible in that lightweight distro if you looked at the misleading GUI interface and you took what they showed you at face value. So now you're going to hear how I did something similar in another distro, in another lightweight desktop environment, right? So Q4OS 6.1 Andromeda with the Trinity desktop environment. For those who don't know, Q4OS is a lightweight distro based on Debian 13 Trixie. It is notable for using very little RAM. It may be even lower than Bodhi Linux with Moksha. Q4OS was technically my very first Linux installation on an ancient Core 2 Duo desktop computer with a whopping 2 gigabytes of RAM and an annoyingly loud fan that I have since sent to recycling. The Trinity desktop environment is a fork of KDE3 before Plasma, so it's particularly suited for very old computers with low RAM. But one thing that irked me about it was when I tried it out before, and now when I tried it out once again on a spare laptop, was that the newest version has the inability to have the left super key act as a menu or app launcher by default, right? So it just doesn't work. You're forced to either choose by going into the settings. You could either have the left super key be an app launcher, or you can have the super key work in combination with other keys, like say Super E to open your default file manager. But they both don't work simultaneously. That's the limitation. So when I downloaded it, I had to figure something out. And I looked up in the Q4OS forum, and there is a way to do it, right? And I go into quite a bit of detail in the show notes, which you may want to read, but the upshot of it is, and why is this interesting if you don't care about Q4OS and you never want to try the Trinity desktop environment? The reason this is a bigger discovery is because there are two command line applications that you can use in any X11 environment, at least, to fully customize your key bindings in ways that go beyond what is available in your desktop environment or beyond what is available in some window manager you might be using. Maybe you like everything about it, but for some reason, it forbids you from doing some particular key binding. Well, Xcape, that's XCAPE, is one of the ones you could use to get around that. And, in Trinity desktop environment, you'd have to go into the settings and basically set up Xcape in the terminal. And I give you the exact syntax and how it's done in the show notes. It's ponderous to read it out here on a live video podcast. But basically what you do is you go in there and you will assign the left super key, the press and release of it, the release of it being the key factor, to some other key combination. And then that you set that key combination, like a fictional key combination, as the thing that launches the app launcher. So using a program like Xcape, which you install from like the Synaptic Package Manager or in the terminal, can often allow you to get around those kind of limitations. So, and if you do that, then suddenly now for the first time, you have the ability to both use the super key press and release as your app launcher, just like you do on Cinnamon or Windows. And you can use combinations, Super E, open your default file manager. Suddenly now it works. But you need Xcape to get around those limitations. So in the show notes, there's the whole thread on the Q4OS forum, and you could follow my show notes if this might be useful to you. There is another command line program called XDO Tool. It's similar to Xcape, also available in the Synaptic Package Manager. Most every distro will probably have it. And I use this in a similar fashion in the past. And for example, I didn't like the way XFCE worked in Nomad BSD. I tried a couple years ago. And by assigning a key combination like, say, Control-Shift-Y, which I would never normally use with XDO Tool. So effectively, XDO Tool, the press and release of the super key will trigger the fictional Control-Shift-Y, which you then assign to be the actual combination in the GUI settings to be the thing that launches the default app launcher. So you're getting around the limitations in a desktop environment by doing this. So maybe you're happy with your DE, maybe your window manager is fully customizable, but some of them are not, as I showed you in Puppy Linux recently. As I know, Trinity is not fully customizable. XFCE has some limitations. Similarly, Mate is another one where that behavior doesn't exist by default. And these two apps are two apps that I have found in any X11 environment, at least, you can get around those limitations. So, because the idea of not being able to customize your keys is just abhorrent to me. If you should be able to do it.
So these are only on X11. So if anybody's on Wayland, they may not work. Is that right?
That's right. There's another one called YDO tool that is a bit more complicated. That's similar to XDO tool, but that one works in Wayland. I didn't mess around with that one because it was a little more, I thought, complex to figure out. So there is probably a way to do it in Wayland as well.
Okay. Can I make a slightly controversial point?
Sure.
Which is that you're right that you should be able to do what the hell you want. But if you look at modern desktops such as GNOME and KDE, that's always kind of been there in some way, shape, or form. It's the older ones which kind of cater to the more, how do you put it, lower end hardware, and or maybe you could even call it the Luddite crowd, people who don't want to move, get off my lawn. I want to keep using GNOME 2, Mate, etc., something like that. And I suppose it's not that surprising then that these facilities aren't there because it's for a different demographic. Um, I'm just while what you've done is very interesting, and I like how much detail you've gone into, and it is pretty cool, and is useful. I do wonder whether the Venn diagram of people who would want to do that, and at the same time the people who are using, say, Mate or XFCE, doesn't necessarily overlap in the same way. I don't know. That's a slightly controversial point.
You might be right. My favorite desktop environment, Cinnamon, everything works the way I want. I haven't found any limitations that I couldn't get around. But like I told you, I know Mate, XFCE, Trinity, and then what I told you about Lab WC Window Manager in the new Puppy Linux, and that's a modern window manager. So that's 4 right there. There may be others. So.
Are they still developing Trinity? I thought it'd come to an end now. I mean, I've only ever tried it once, and I felt like I'd just been in a time warp 20 years ago, and felt very nostalgic, and then uninstalled it because it was so old fashioned. But I thought it was coming to an end. But is it still being developed?
XFCE.
No, Trinity.
Oh, Trinity. Yeah, there's the newest update was this year, I think, early 2026 or late 2025. So it is a little dated.
Yeah, I know Mate's development is being curtailed because Martin Wimpress, who kind of set it all up, he's moving on to other things and he's looking for lead developers to kind of take over the project. And having tried Mate recently for the first time in a long time, I can see why a lot of work needs to be done there. But I don't know about Trinity. I don't think I've ever used Trinity. I only really got onto.
It's very. It's like an XP, even earlier looking than that. It's very old. I mean, but every desktop has its people. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see how you. I'm not a key binding person, you see. So unless I can do it with the mouse,
You Neanderthal using a mouse,
I know.
flipping heck.
Well, my ball. I like to play with my ball there, so it's easier than.
Oh, do you use a trackball mouse?
Yes, best thing ever.
Aha! And I think Eric, formerly of this parish, also had one, which was like that as well. I'm sure he showed it off on an audio podcast on the video.
It was mentioned actually on the Linux cast. Matt said he was talking about it on something, and I thought, nah, I can't get used to this. Bought it and never looked back. Amazing. Anyway, so I don't want to change the subject. Sorry, Jim, continue.
Yeah, so I'm big on key bindings. If I can't have my preferred keyboard shortcuts, it's maddening. I cannot stand to use an app. If they don't work, I will do whatever I have to do to make them work or not use it. I tried Fluxer, for example, the Discord alternative, and they have key bindings. They just don't work. They're supposed to fix them, but yeah, it drove me nuts. Could never go back to it. But anyway, so yeah, there's two options for you. If you are in any way unsatisfied, maybe you have an older computer or something, and you want to overcome that issue. Those are 2 ways to do it. Read the show notes for more detail. Sorry. All right, I'll move on to my next story here. Right, this is a bit of a rabbit hole, but I'm going to simplify it. Some of us download applications that are not from a package manager, not a Flatpak, not an app image, not a snap. It's just a binary, a program, right? It might be some specialized program you download, and how
Like a
you
deb,
use,
basically. Like a
not
deb,
even a
basically.
deb, not even a deb. It has no extension.
Okay.
Deb's actually something recognizable. I'm talking about some dude, a programmer, makes a specialized little program and shares it. And you just download it from the person, and that's what I'm calling a binary. I think that's how people refer to it sometimes, right? So how do you use that in, not you just, you go into the terminal, right? Type period / and then, launch it in the terminal, right? There's issues with that. First off, make sure you trust the person that created the app, right? That's the first thing. So aside from that, let's say that they're part of a community and you do trust the app. You got this binary. It's not a deb. It's just say 100 megabyte, whatever. It's a program, and you want to use it. Now, how you do that in Cinnamon is, I found it problematic, and I downloaded a program like this recently, and I had to go through 4 steps. It took me the better part of 2.5 days, working a little bit at a time, solving one issue after the other to wrangle this binary and make it behave the way I wanted. So the first problem was I had an error when I tried to run it in the terminal, right? / and then the name of the app from the appropriate directory. It gave me an error, and it had something to do with the libmpv.so.1 cannot open shared object, right? Basically, there was a library that our version of the newest version of Cinnamon Mint does not have this old library that it expects. So I had to follow the developer's suggestion and create a symbolic link, which I heard of it. I had never done it before. And again, in the show notes, I go into quite a bit of detail about it. I won't read it to you because that's boring, but for the first time, I had to create a symbolic link and point this old binary that the newest version of Cinnamon doesn't use and point it to the new one. Okay, that worked. Problem solved. Now the app launched. Okay, great. I'm not even going to talk about what this app does because it's irrelevant. I'm simply talking about wrangling this binary to make it work properly in Cinnamon. So here's the next problem. All right, I launched the app successfully, but then I got tired of going into the terminal CD, navigating to the directory where I put this binary, right? I like to throw things in a directory in / opt. Well, it doesn't matter where you put it. You got to navigate there, right, to launch it. I got tired of doing that. And then if I tried to instead go to just launch the terminal from my, which defaults to the home directory, and then, navigate to it there, I figured out that it would dump a config file and a log file every time I started it up into the home directory, in addition to the one that was sitting in / opt, the directory that it was residing in. That's just the way the guy designed it, I guess. To me, that's sloppy coding, but I'm not a coder. And the guy designed a program that I want to use, so I can't really give him a hard time about it. So I wanted to figure out a way around that, so I didn't have this redundant config file and these binaries in my home directory, which drives me crazy. So what I figured out was I needed a chain of commands. And once again, in the show notes, I give you the exact syntax. For the first time, I had to figure out how to chain multiple commands together, right? I had to use CD, and then in double quotes, the path to the directory. Then I had to use double ampersands to chain the next command. Then I had to hit period / and the name of the app then another space, and this time a single ampersand, then another space, then the command disown, then another space, 2 ampersands, and then exit. And what that does, right, chaining all those commands does, because this app was annoying me, because not only would it dump this extra config file and log file, but it also, even though it's a GUI app, the terminal window would be hanging out in the background connected to the GUI app, and you couldn't close the terminal because it would shut down the GUI app, right? And that's annoying. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this, but now you've got this, this terminal annoying me in the background. So once again, now I'm going down another rabbit hole, figuring out how to stop this from happening, right? So I chain those commands together, read the show notes if you want to copy it for yourself, and sure enough, okay, now I've got the app able to launch, and to not have that window, the window disappears. That's what the disown part of that does. And disown actually separates it, and then exit makes it disappear. Okay, so you think I would be happy now, right? Because that's step 2. No such luck, right? Because suddenly now I'm thinking to myself, well, how do I launch this? I want to launch it with the keyboard, because I'm a keyboard person, as I've explained. I want to be able to hit super key and type the first couple letters of the app and have the program launch. I can't do that with this chain of commands, right? I have to do that in the terminal. All right, so next, now I have to learn how to make a bash script, all right? Of course, I've used bash scripts. I've copied them from other people or downloaded them. I've never created one myself. So now I had to figure out how to do that using the help of Google, search engine. So now, instead of launching the GUI app in a terminal, I wanted to use a bash script, because if I did that, now I could create a menu entry in the Cinnamon menu, right? And point it to the .sh, bash script. And that was the step 3. So I made my first bash script from using a sample online. Luckily, I had another program that works similarly to this. It's a GUI app that launches with a bash script that somebody else made. So I just copied that one and, changed the path and everything. So now I'm able to hit the super key, right, or the Windows key for you noobs, and then, type the first couple letters of the app, smash the enter key, and now it launches, right? No terminal goes away, the GUI app launches, and now it's like integrated into my menu. I had to do this manually, but boom, now it's there, right? You think I would be happy now? That's step 3. No, because you know why? Because when the GUI app launches, you look down at the panel, it has a generic gear icon, all right? Even though I pointed it to an icon in the desktop file, you can point it to an icon, one that you download or one that's on your computer already, a PNG or a .ico file. And that annoys me. I cannot abide. I can't have that generic gear icon burning a hole in my brain while it's on my screen, or when you hit the Alt-Tab task switcher, you see that generic gear icon instead of, the nice, colorful, whatever icon that you have. So step 4, now I have to go, this is driving me nuts, so I go to the Linux Mint forum, and luckily the Mint forum is so great. Within 24 hours, somebody answered some obscure thing that I never in a million years would have figured out. Again, read the show notes. I go into some detail about this, but effectively what I had to do was, there's something called startup WM class, and you need to add this line to your desktop file. And the way to get the proper thing to add, the variable you need to add, you got to open up a terminal and then type xprop and then WM _class, all in capitals. Then the pointer changes. You click on the open window that's misbehaving, the one that doesn't have the icon that you want. And then suddenly in the terminal, it'll tell you what you have to put in the desktop file. In this case, it was FLET, capital F, lowercase LET, because this is an app that uses like video components. It uses FFmpeg as its back end. Suddenly, once I did that, and again, who would ever have figured this out? Thankfully, the forum is very helpful. Suddenly now, when I added that in, now I've got an icon, finally. And now it works exactly as I want, right? This app that's just a binary, no extension, and now I could hit do exactly what I want. I could hit the super key, type the first couple letters, hit the enter, it launches, terminal goes away, it works fine. I've got a nice icon on the bottom of my screen in the panel. When I hit the task switcher, the icon's there, everything works. But it took 4 steps, and I learned a lot doing it. So that is the story of how I wrangled a binary to make it behave in Cinnamon. And with this new knowledge, I was also able to apply it to a couple other apps I had that, like, when he launched the app, it had a pretty icon, but like when you launched a secondary window out of it, like say to save something or import something, that one had a generic gear icon. I live with it. I didn't know why it did that. Now I know why. I can assign this WM class. Read the show notes. If you have an application that doesn't have a pretty icon and you can't figure out why, you got my explanation here will fix that for you. So I was very happy to wrangle that app and get it working the way I want.
That's really good, yeah. But of course, now your next thing you have to do is either make it into a deb file or even better, a flat pack. So in 2 weeks, you've got to come back now and explain how you changed it into a deb file or a
No. He's got to shove it into a C space. That way it's completely isolated, but he's not having to build an app image or a deb.
I'm pretty happy right now, so I'm going to leave well enough alone.
Yeah, you do well there. Yeah, it's good.
All right, let's move on to the next thing. File managers. I'm going to complain about file managers. Nemo, for some reason, it's slow. I don't know if you guys noticed that, especially if you open up. It's not that slow to open, but if you have a bunch of stuff, Nemo being the default file manager, of course, in Linux Mint Cinnamon, it takes like 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, almost 3 Mississippi sometimes to draw the contents on screen, especially if you have a bunch of directories or files. Majid, you're muted.
Sorry, what are you comparing it to when you say that it's slow? Are you just saying objectively slow or slower than something else?
I've noticed even on a computer with 16 or 24 gigs of RAM, Nemo opens quickly. When I smash my keyboard, it opens pretty fast. But even if there's only a few directories in there, sometimes I'm looking, I see the Nemo open and it looks like it's empty. I think, oh God, where my directories go, But then I'm like 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, then they like pop into view. And those 2 seconds are like torture. I mean, I'm like, oh my God, like I think for a moment, I think my directories or files disappeared. But it just takes like an extra couple of seconds for them to get drawn on the screen, I don't know why that is, and
something slowing it down. I don't think it's Nemo itself. It must be something in the background it's trying to open before it shows you. Because I've never had a problem.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's worth looking into to see.
Normally I don't have too much of a complaint about Nemo, but it got worse when I started working with. I had some directories that had like hundreds of big video files, or like dozens of subdirectories containing hundreds of big video files. And when I started, trying to move in there, like to go rename stuff or move stuff around, organize it, it is dragging for me, Again, my computers are not the newest, but, it does seem to be like it's gotten worse for me recently. So I did try some other file managers. I tried some lightweight ones. For example, I tried Double Commander, which I like as an app image, and I was able to, it's much lighter. I was able to drag stuff back and forth much easier in Double Commander. It has this nice dual pane view as well. That worked really nice. I would recommend trying out Double Commander. I believe there's other formats other than an app image, but I like something like an app image. When you're just trying something out, you don't know if you want to commit to it. You don't have to like install it per se. You can integrate it into your menu, but it's just there. And, I like Double Commander. However, there's a million settings, and as of yet, I could not figure out the one view that I absolutely want when you're working with video files. I want a big thumbnail, like 256 by 256, and I want the size of the video, each one underneath. in the thumbnail view. Because a lot of times new videos, some of them are like little small, short, nothing clips that you just want to breeze past. And some of them are big, they could be a gig or 2 gigs or whatever. Some could be somewhere in between. Anyway, of the file managers I tried, I tried some lightweight ones. PCman FM, Space FM, Crusader, XFE, not to be confused with XFCE. None of them had the right view with the thumbnail and the file size. I tried Thunar, which was even heavier and slower than Nemo. Finally, I downloaded Dolphin. And Dolphin, I think it's probably technically about the same weight as Nemo. But in my experience, when you're working with big collections of lots of files, especially big files, it seemed a lot more responsive than Nemo. It also had a setting to remember the last used directory when you last opened and closed it. So it'll go right back to where you left off. And more importantly, you could have nice big thumbnails and you could have the size of the file right underneath. And to me, that was the sweet spot. I just found it a lot easier. If you want that visual thumbnail, you want the file size, Dolphin worked. If you're just dragging and organizing, Double Commander was both performed better than Nemo for me. Maybe you guys are all use Nemo and you're satisfied with it. I was too.
I mean, I like Nemo, to be honest, and it's the kind of thing that I would install on other distros as well. I find Dolphin can be a little bit buggy, at least when I've used it. And don't get me started on Nautilus stroke files. I mean, it's great if you're Fisher Price, but nothing else.
The only time I've had a problem with Nemo is sometimes in network shares, it will lock up. And for those instances, I usually have Dolphin installed as a backup so that I can switch over to it and use it until I'm able to restart my computer.
So that's ironic. Actually, because I have it the other way around. Like, if I've got Dolphin on, I find that Dolphin causes me issues with my network shares, and so I'll have Nemo as a separate if I'm on, say, Kubuntu or something else, KDE.
Yeah, I think it's whichever one you're using first tends to, lock up, and then you got to switch to the other one. As long as there's a backup, I'm good. But someone on the chat has actually mentioned liking an application called Midnight Commander, and I assume that has to be similar to Double Commander. So
I think Midnight Commander might be text only. I could be wrong about that, but I don't know if it has big thumbnails or any thumbnails for that matter. It's more like old school, like TTY type thing, I think.
I think you might be right. Midnight Commander. I'm pretty sure I remember using it in a command line once. Yeah.
Right.
I know
so anyway,
Dolphin has the most respect, I think, out of even people that are GNOME users, a lot of them say that Dolphin is one of the best.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot of Nemo, just for whatever reason. It was lighter when working with these big collections of files, and Nemo was kind of slowing me down. But it's good to have more than one sometimes for different purposes. All right, let's go on to the next segment. I'm going to talk about video players and management. I talked about how on my Android phone, I found this awesome app called Nova Video Player from F-Droid. It's better than VLC if you're navigating network shares via Samba on your local network, because the thumbnails show up in Nova. They don't show up on VLC. That was something I talked about months ago. Well,
Nova used to be available in the regular Google Play Store. Is it still?
Maybe. I defaulted to F-Droid when possible, but that's where I got it from. It might be in the Google Play Store too.
Sorry to interrupt.
But no problem. But anyway, so for anybody that likes to watch video on their Android phone or tablet, I highly recommend Nova for that reason, because if you're browsing your network shares, VLC, they're supposed to show you thumbnails, but it doesn't. It just doesn't work. Like, you'll get one odd one show up randomly, but it just does not consistently work for a mature, product that everybody knows and uses. That is one huge flaw in it. Nova fixes that. But let me tell you about the next thing I like about Nova. it allows you to browse your network shares in Nova, and you could launch it in any local video app. You don't have to launch it and play the thumbnail you're looking at or the video you're looking at over your network shares in Nova. You could launch it in VLC. You could launch it in MPV, Android version. You could launch it in, Samsung has like their own version of a video player, which I think is just a skinned version of MPV. But in any case, you've got options, right? 3 or 4 options there because they behave differently, right? If you're, again, this is all first world problems, but that's what we're talking about here, right? If you're very picky about how you like to interact with the video on your phone, scrubbing through, right? Some programs like you double tap and it jumps forward 10 seconds. Some of them you can hit a virtual button on the screen. Some of them you have gestures, right? One I like about MPV Android as opposed to Nova does like a double tap to jump forward. And, or you could like seek forward, like putting your finger on long videos, it's hard to get it exactingly right. That's why these gestures or these buttons are important, because if you have a 3-hour long video, you're trying to find a spot, like a song or a scene or whatever, trying to, on your phone, which is this big, trying to like tap the right spot is difficult. That's why you want 30-second or 10-second jump forward and back. And what MPV Android does, it lets you drag your finger across, and you could scrub like, a minute, 2 minutes, whatever, back and forth, depending on how fast you drag your finger across. It gives you a finer control than Nova does. So depending on how you want to seek through your video, if you want to jump forward a discrete amount, very brief amounts, or you want to be able to, scrub forward with your finger, Nova is awesome because it allows you to launch in any one of the other video apps on your phone. And, first you see the thumbnails in Nova, which you can't get in VLC, and then have more control over how you can scrub through them. And going over your network, I guess it also depends on the longer you let it play, the more of a scrubbable buffer builds up. So, if you let it play for 30 seconds or whatever, you get a lot more leeway on the scrubbing back and forth. So I thought that was really cool. So once again, I'm going to recommend Nova for your Android phone or tablet. All right. So
I understand the problems with VLC. I've been having one myself. I downloaded a song from, well, let's just say a website, and I played it, and it had a little blimp at the start on VLC. I thought, I must have downloaded it wrong, so I downloaded it again. Then I changed to a different download, it downloaded again. Every time I played it with the VLC, it had a little blimp. So finally, I decided I'll just try it on a different player. And it played smoothly. Every one I downloaded had played smoothly, and VLC had just put a little beep at the start of the thing. So yeah, I'm going to give that a try, definitely.
Yeah, even on a desktop or laptop, I sometimes will use celluloid or MPV, raw MPV, because celluloid's a MPV front end, which is Mint's default. But yeah, MPV actually has some really nice capabilities. It's all scriptable for people that are really into, customizing the experience. But even if you're just casually trying to launch a player, VLC, it's like the gold standard, but it has some flaws, both on Android and on desktop in Linux, in my experience.
Yeah, I agree. VLC is usually not a pleasant experience, other than if you're just playing a video or an MP3. But if you try to do anything more than that, it gets buggy, in my experience with it. So I second that.
Yeah, there's some, nice features it does have if you're trying to play different audio tracks. Like, let's say you're watching a movie and there's a director's commentary as the second English audio track. Each one of those apps handles that differently, how you switch between them and stuff. So it's just like file managers. It's definitely worth using more than one video player, depending on what you're doing. If one is giving you trouble, try one of the other ones. All right, talking about videos, I went down another whole big rabbit hole. For the last few years, I have been using Plex happily on my media desktop desktop. It's not a dedicated server. It's a regular desktop that I have the Plex server software running. And I had a 300 gig Samsung external drive holding a whole bunch of movie and TV shows. And they were just all bunched up in one video folder. I didn't like name them properly and organize them properly the way that Plex likes. So that way all the metadata will show up, you know, your poster for your different TV series or the poster for the movie organized into different season subfolders. That's what you need to do, right? You got to, at some point, if you're not going to just dump it all in a file and just live with it all unsorted, you've got to spend time. It took me about 90 minutes. I sorted all that stuff out. And now Plex is beautiful. I've got everything well organized. So my series and movies have the proper artwork and everything else. Also, I like to watch the bonus content. So if I rip a Blu-ray or a DVD with MKV, Make MKV app, you know, and it rips the various behind-the-scenes featurettes and bonus content, the so-called extras on a DVD or Blu-ray. If you name them exactingly, you have to follow their format. If you name them just so, they will show up on your client, whether it's on your Fire TV or your desktop or your phone, underneath the main program, the main movie. So you can have access to all that stuff. You just got to put the time in to sort it and name it pretty exactingly. I did find out that if you start downloading stuff from like the torrents, they are pretty forgiving. Normally, it doesn't matter if there's some extra subfolders. They would, as long as they're named in a certain way, you know, name of the program, the year in parentheses, and then, you know, S0 whatever, E0 whatever, it will figure it out and, you know, add it to your Plex organization nicely in sequence. So I was newly empowered by doing that after living with it. Just, it is a big mess. Now, I then figured out I had to use FFmpeg to split some clips and join some clips. And I go into a bit more detail about this in the show notes. You should read them. But FFmpeg in the terminal is really great if you know the syntax. If you want to take clips, for example, I downloaded a 4-episode, 2-hour-long video of some reality show from YouTube, right? And there's 4 episodes back to back, like 22 minutes apiece. Well, Plex can handle that if you name it in such a way, knowing that it's one video and actually 4 different episodes. It can integrate that into the menu, but they do recommend you can cut them if you want. And FFmpeg in the terminal, no GUI, is the way to do that. And you can Google it yourself, or you could look at my show notes and I show you how to do that. And what the key thing is, you want to split these clips without re-encoding them. That's the whole thing. No re-encoding, just split them, you know, and it doesn't take very long. And likewise, if you want to join clips, let's say you download a video, but it's in 8 parts or however many parts. Same thing, FFmpeg has the ability, I know a lot of people know this already, but I put the exact syntax in the show notes, and now it's in my terminal history. So the next time I do it, if I need to do this 6 months from now, I'm not going to remember off the top of my head, right, the exact syntax, but Control R in the terminal will bring it up, I'll recognize it, and then obviously update the name of the appropriate input and output files, and it's able to just join this stuff. It's called the concat protocol for concatenation. So yes, and because I had these clips I needed to split and some I needed to join, FFmpeg did the trick. I will tell you about an app I found called Rename My TV Series, number 2. It is a cool app for Linux, Windows, and Mac. If you have a collection of TV series episodes that you downloaded, let's say you hit up the torrents and you've got like dozens or hundreds of episodes, and you want to get them to be in the format that Plex needs, right? If they're not already, you can do it laboriously, using a rename one at a time or using your file renamer, you might be able to semi-automate it. But there's also this cool app. The link is in the show notes called Rename My TV Series, which pings the online databases like the movie database or the TV database, and it will put up the list of the episodes, which you can then match up your files from the directory you saved them to. And this could save you oodles of time. Just make sure you do it right, that you've got it matched up correctly, because it'll trust what you tell it, that this season's that season and that episode's that episode. So it's a really cool application. I installed it on Linux Mint, and there's the link in the show notes. Now, newly empowered, since I did this with Plex, I decided to check out Jellyfin, and I found that it was very easy to install. This Jellyfin, of course, being a similar software as Plex, but free and open source, I believe, 100%. And I installed it via a command line script because Mint, of course, is based on Ubuntu. You can do this easily. Other distros, you may need to fire up a container Docker or something like that.
Yeah, so I was going to ask exactly how you did it, because I installed Jellyfin and I did it via Docker, Docker Compose, and I found it a great learning experience. And actually, if you're just doing it straight on, say, something like Ubuntu server, it's actually not that difficult. I made life difficult for myself because I was doing it in a funky way. So how did you do it? Did you just install it as a normal program, or did you do it as a Docker image?
Yeah, I just used the script. If you're Ubuntu based, like Linux Mint is, you can just copy copy it straight from their website into the command line. I think it downloads it through curl and installs it with the script, and boom, it's just done like within seconds. So
you're installing somebody else's binary
not,
from a script without checking it first.
Well, this is Jellyfin from their official website. That's the recommended way to do it if you are doing it on Ubuntu and
I did
you're
the
not.
same thing.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was very easy to install. And, there's a quick connect feature to connect your client. In my case, I put the client on my Android phone. I put it on my Fire TV 4K Max device so I could use it with a remote control like normal people use to watch videos. And it connected very quickly. So,
you
luckily
came
Jellyfin
to the wrong place if you were looking for normal people.
Yeah. Jellyfin very smartly follows almost 100% Plex's naming schemes and organization schemes. So all that work I just told you about that I did, about organizing and naming my files, and it all applies now to Jellyfin. Like I didn't have to redo it for Jellyfin.
I
right?
will.
It's all neat and organized. So
I will mention that the script that you're talking about does not work for the original run of Doctor Who. Almost nothing does. But Jellyfin.
Which script?
The one where it renames television shows to the format that Plex uses.
There's 3 different databases. You should check all of them.
Yeah, you have to find a very specific script for the original Doctor Who, but it's because of how they did the original serials, where there would be like 4 episodes all named the same thing, and so it considers them one episode, and so then you have to watch by version. But Jellyfin will just do it right and see it the correct way with hardly any interference whatsoever.
Yeah, there are some old programs that Plex specifically tells you, and I'm pretty sure Jellyfin probably just follows suit. Some ancient shows like from the 50s or 60s, like the original Doctor Who is, that you name them by date, not episode number and things like that. So there
Dark
are
Shadows.
procedures. Yeah. If you're downloading some old school, programs from yesteryear that Plex can recommend. So yeah, there's a huge community, if you figure these things out.
I'm thinking of switching over to Jellyfin. It's just, I bought the Plex Lifetime Pass. I think when it first came out, I've been using it since the beginning of time. So it's, but every time every so often they pop up with new terms of service, and it's becoming more invasive. If you look through it, you can see they're starting to watch, and especially after the controversy of sharing your
Library.
what you watch with somebody, a friend or whatever. That was a bit of a controversy, and I actually gave a film a score. So it came up asking me, what did you think of the movie? So I clicked on 4 and I typed a bit of review because I wasn't happy with it. And then I got all these pop-ups back with verbal abuse because I'd given a score. I thought, oh, I'm not going to do that again. So I'm going to give Jellyfin a try, and I will just have it on Docker through Zimmer OS. It takes like seconds.
Yeah, so I mean, I have used Jellyfin. I tried many, many times to get on with Plex. I didn't pay for anything, but and I just found it buggy as hell. It was supposed to work, because it's a company behind it. It's supposed to work on NASes and phones and computers and everything, servers and whatever. And I just couldn't. Something would always go wrong with it. Is basically the thing. And my first time when I tried to get in on Jellyfin, I was trying to install it on a Synology NAS, and so I think that you know that has its own kind of peculiarities. But since I've put it on my server box that I have now, and I have my ZFS pools with my media, my viewable Linux ISOs that I have, uh, a Jellyfin works really well, and I love the Chromecast thing I can do with it because I've got a Chromecast. I'll get to it in my wanderings, and that I can just watch stuff through that. It's just brilliant. I really do like Jellyfin. You do have to kind of. There's not a huge amount of setup, but there's a little bit of setup. But then once you've done it, it kind of. It's not it's not the most difficult thing in the world after that.
Lost 2 video streams. Is this my fault?
I don't know.
I've touched nothing.
Jim, put another coin in the slot.
Yeah, I've touched nothing, Judge, Officer. I didn't do anything.
All right. Well, all we can do is carry on. Is it time for Joe?
Yeah, I think so. Well, you're up. He has one little segment.
Oh, okay. Well, no, because he still had one more topic. Or no, he had a couple more topics. Because he was talking about Jellyfin and then recast, hard drive failure, and screen stream. So, Jim, are you still there? There he is.
I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I'm back. I was almost finished, but my dad was calling me. He was almost here, so perfect timing. I just took the call to make sure he had the right address. So yeah, let me finish up, and then I'll wander off. So anyway, Jellyfin. What I like about it, it's very similar to Plex. I have both of them going right now. I did find that there's some really. I like the fact that you can, for non-movies and non-TV shows, like say miscellaneous videos, like I have a small collection of concert videos. I have a small collection of, fight events and, sports events. So when you put them in I like the fact that Jellyfin respects the subfolders. I like it better than the way Plex does it, where you have to create a collection in Plex and it sort of sits side by side with the individual files. Where in Jellyfin, if you just put your non-TV, non-movie in subfolders and name the subfolder, your items will show up, under that subfolder. I just think it's cleaner, and neater and more direct. And then the other thing about Jellyfin, again, this is a deep rabbit hole to go down if you want, but there's all kinds of customization, all kinds of alternate clients for all different devices, and people have scripts and all kinds of different things because it's open source, right? So you can customize it a lot. You can tinker with it. People, just like people do their so-called ricing and all that on their desktop, you can really tweak Jellyfin to all kinds of degrees. Maybe down the road I'll be talking about how I'm playing around with my Jellyfin interface. But right now I'm using it along with Plex, and it was very easy to set up. All right, last two things I'm going to talk about here before I have to go. Number one, I've talked about the recast DVR for the over-the-air television. I got over 100 channels here. I have an antenna on my roof. Since 2019, I had a Amazon recast DVR. It integrates right into my Fire TV, which I have on all devices that I have on all my TVs. In recent years, it's been giving me all kinds of problems. It loses its connection. The back end, also Amazon itself had problems with the series recording, stopped working for weeks until they, tapped their overworked engineer on the shoulder to fix it. People were bitching and complaining on the forum. And the thing is out of, by the way, if you don't know, it's out of service. They're not making it anymore. 2026 is the last year where it's technically supported. If you want to call support, it's basically dying off. And in particular, it's just gotten worse and worse. For whatever reason, it cannot hold a connection, especially with my AT&T fiber gateway that I've used for the last year. And it is just more trouble than it's worth. I've replaced it with a Tablo, which is another over-the-air DVR. I've got hooked up to the same antenna, and that is rock solid and reliable in terms of the recording, because I happen to live in an area where I'm in between two major markets, right? Miami and West Palm Beach. So I have two of almost every channel, all the major networks and all kind of sub-channels and independent stations. So if I want to record The Simpsons or watch the local news or, major sports and whatever else, I can get it in pristine quality. So I finally got so fed up, especially since Android recently confirmed that their whole ecosystem going forward, the Fire TV devices themselves are going to be locked down with that so-called Vega OS. No more Android compatibility, no more side loading.
Yeah, this is one of the things that makes me wonder whether it might be worth buying an extra Fire TV stick before they all go to this Vega OS, which is basically just web apps.
Yeah.
Really. There's no actual apps that you can download onto it. It's all done through a web interface, And so, I have actually, I was actually going to, again, talk about it. Am I wondering about whether it's worth just buying one while they're still around?
Yeah.
And they've still got Android on them and you can still side load and do all the things that you want to.
Yeah, I've got
Or just
three,
get a mini
and
PC.
the TV itself.
We'll talk about that when we get there, all right? Because that is something that comes up.
This is the only way to watch TV.
I have a remote that works on all my PCs.
Well, let's not go there. Let's not go there again.
All right. Anyway, so fed up with all this because it would drop the connection. It wouldn't record the videos properly. They'd be split up every 5 minutes. On the 5 minutes, it would lose the connection. It was just driving me mad. So I'm like, why do I keep doing this? Let me just get rid of it. I watched a teardown video or article online, how to open it up. I had a 2 terabyte Western Digital external, expanded memory from a hard drive that I bought. And I said, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to repurpose this 2 terabyte Western Digital drive, and use that as my new media drive on my desktop here instead of the 300 gigabyte old ancient Samsung drive. I'm going to now, for my stuff that Plex and Jellyfin have access to, I'm now going to have a whopping 2 terabytes, right? Nearly 7 times greater. And I don't have to spend any money. I'm going to take this 2 terabyte drive. I pulled off. I spent hours pulling off all the MPEG video files that were on the external hard drive. That's how the recast records. It records your 30-minute, 60-minute, or whatever 2-hour-long TV shows as 500 megabyte MPEG files. So there could be anywhere from 1 to 20 of them, sequentially numbered, depending on, if it was HD or SD or how long the program was. So I pulled off all the stuff that I wanted to save. Not everything, because it was 2.5 terabytes worth of content, right? I got what I wanted off of it. And now I'm like, oh, this is great. Now I'm going to repurpose this hard drive and have this big drive, for my Plex and Jellyfin. The only problem was I reformatted it, and then I started putting my files back onto this drive, the files from my 300 gigabyte drive and other ones I had downloaded. And I got the click of death. I started downloading stuff overnight. I posted a video on the in the Discord. I can't help but feel I killed the drive somehow, but who knows? Maybe it was just on its way out. It was 7 years old. I don't know why, but yeah, the drive is dead. Look, I got everything off that I wanted, right? So I didn't lose any data, but I wanted to repurpose the drive rather than buy a new one, and use it for Plex and Jellyfin, and the recast was now defunct. Sadly, that plan didn't work. The drive is dead, and so then I thought to myself, well, I've got these I have 7 6 terabyte Hitachi G technology hard drives, older ones between say 6 and 15 years old, in my safe that have old data on them. They're very big, but they're very heavy. They're hot. They vibrate the desk. There's a big bright light on the front of them. I mean, it's a commitment to have these drives like running 24/7. Like right next to you on the desk. And I'm like, I didn't want to use those, so I just put them back, and I spent my time on my hands and knees connecting them and everything. Then I just said, this is annoying. You know what? I'm just going to go back to Amazon. And sadly, I did have to spend money in the end. I ended up buying a Seagate 4 terabyte small little, modern drive the size of the size of the USB. That's my new drive for my content connected to my media desktop that I will, serve up to $71 after tax.
Now,
And then I had to spend another 10 because the stupid little short cord they gave me wouldn't even reach the USB on the desktop. This cord's like this long. It's like, yeah.
I'm going to point something out here. Now,
Hmm.
I hope you didn't toss out that 2 terabyte external drive that you had. You still have it?
I didn't toss it. I still got it.
Okay, and your 6 terabyte, those are Thunderbolt, right?
The 6 terabyte drive, the 7 6 terabyte
Gotcha.
drives I have, they have eSATA, FireWire,
Yeah, I got you.
800 connections, and USB 2.0.
Okay, here's the thing. Inside there, inside those drives, there's a SATA drive, and inside your 2 terabyte, there's a SATA drive. And I know that you said your 6 terabyte ones are loud and obnoxious, but that's the controller. That's that outer shell casing and the fan and all the hardware that goes with it to convert it to the different things. So what you do is you shuck it and you pull out that 6 terabyte drive, and then you take that 6 terabyte drive and you put it into the 2 terabyte with the broken drive. You take out the broken 2 terabyte drive, you put in the 6 terabyte drive. And now you have an external 6 terabyte drive that is no longer loud and obnoxious.
Okay, but that little Western Digital 2 terabyte drive, it's tiny. It's like
okay, so
a
it's
little
not
wider than a deck of playing cards. I don't think they will fit in there.
okay, I see.
I don't think it's user serviceable. I mean,
the one is a 3.5 and the other is a 2.5. Okay, so yeah, your 2.5 died, but you can still shuck those 6 terabyte drives and put them inside an actual computer, but do you only have, no, you have full-size computers. You're not just running the mini PCs like Charlie is. So you can pull those 6 terabyte drives, and they're just SATA drives, and you put them into a regular computer and they work fine.
Yeah, okay. That's a possibility. Yeah, I might have a slot in the media desktop that I have been referring to. I'd have to get an enclosure, it's called, right? And stick it in there and connect it with the...
No, once you shuck it from that 6 terabyte enclosure, it's just a SATA drive, and then you put it into your computer the same way you would put it inside any SATA drive inside your computer. It's just a SATA drive.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's a possibility. Maybe a project for another day. But in the short term, I spent a little money, including the extra $10 for the longer cable because they give you a short little one. And yeah, so now I've got a nice small 4 terabyte Seagate drive, which will hold all my downloaded content for Plex and Jellyfin. It just has very little heat, doesn't make noise, doesn't need external power, doesn't have a big obnoxious light on it, sits right underneath the monitor on my desk. And so, yeah, ultimately, that's what I did. So that's my wanderings.
Oh, well, thanks a lot.
Thank you
That was quite a
for.
lot.
Yeah. I was busy in the last month. We do these once a month, so it's easy to get up to a lot of stuff. So thank you for listening and speaking. Like I said today, I can't stick around for the whole show because I have a house guest arriving any minute, but I will be sure to listen to afterwards.
All right,
So-
talk to you later.
Okay, guys. Bye-bye.
Hi, Jim.
See you later, Jim. Okay, then. So it's time for Joe.
Yeah, I wouldn't know nothing about having a lot going on, over a
Yeah,
4-week
you've not
period,
done much, have you?
right? I mean, I've done a lot, but a lot of it is contiguous. So, well, after the last Wandering show, I went and got started on the mini rack to get it working the way that it should. First, I tried simply moving the PC with the SATA connectors to the top so that the hot air could more easily escape. I also tried to set up a fan for it, but the fan that I had pulled out of another system just plain didn't work. It was a small, I think, 40 millimeter fan. Or the adapter that I had gotten doesn't work. I also couldn't get the that M.2 SATA adapter to read again for some reason at all. So I removed it and I put in the adapter for the M.2 to the PCI X4, and then I put in the 5-port PCIe to SATA adapter. I had used a 3D printed crossbar that I made, and I screwed the PCIe extension into it. I'm not happy with the actual stability of the final product, and I'm going to probably have to redesign it eventually. But we'll see how that goes. Also, while I had it apart, I put in the Ethernet cables and the bar in the back so that I could easily connect and disconnect and move the entire rack much more quickly without having to dig my hand into the inside. I also ran a separate one just for an extra connection, and I also ran one for the VPN that I had previously set up. I might still add another router to the mix, but for now it should be good. I didn't have to put on any height extensions or anything like that. And I did not switch out that large power supply for a smaller one, just because, it seemed like a bit of a hassle at the time. I also decided to try out splitting one of the 8 terabyte drives, the one that I had been using for containers on Proxmox, and pass half of it to OMV, so that I could do what I was originally planning on doing with the 4 terabyte drive that was no longer hooked up. The setup was easy, just create the disk space on the drive and with the tools and Proxmox under the VM, and then treat it like a normal drive. But in trying to use it, the speeds were absolutely horrible. Very terrible. I thought it might be the adapter setup, so I tried out a couple of different speed tests with large volume transfers to see if the problem was anywhere else. The speeds to the drive are pretty good, within 15 to 20% of the speeds between drives that are directly connected on my garage PC. But the speeds to the faux drive are about 1/4 the speeds of the others. That is bordering on unusable. I can see why all the tutorials on setting up OMV on Proxmox all said to pass through the whole drive. I thought it might be an issue of the other containers taking up I/O, but I shut everything else down and it did not improve the speeds. I did, however, notice that the speeds of those containers was greatly reduced, especially the VMs. So the copying of the data was not impacted, but the run quality was impacted for everything else. Now I have a full backup of my audiobooks, a second one anyway, although the other one is only mostly complete. This is kind of this kind of incentivizes me getting the 10-port adapter, which I did. But the 5-port one is doing a good job, so hopefully the 10-port one would as well. And hopefully we'll see the longevity being more than the longest of the internal ones that I had, which was 3 months. While this was going on, I also redid my Home Assistant setup because of it breaking last time. I had some trouble at first because I tried to reuse the commands in the terminal history. The version that was there was too old and it would not install. I went and found the new version and everything worked as expected. It was actually a lot easier to set up than the old version, and the push buttons automations on the phone are a whole lot easier to set up than they are with, Amazon stuff, which require third-party integration anyway and some creative REST commands. The only thing that took some time was going to the PC and looking up whichever device name so that I could see where it was addressed to internally, but after that, on my Android phone, I'm able to set up switches all day long. In one click, things turn on and off. As I may have mentioned before, one of the mini laptops, 2-in-1s that I like to use is the Dell Venue 11 Pro with the keyboard base that has the battery. It's been difficult in recent years to keep it in batteries for the keyboard. So I have these two machines, one of them with an i5 4th gen and one with an M5 4th gen. Both are great, but I tend to use the M5 more for the better battery life. But I was down to one keyboard with a working battery and two more that the keyboard and touchpad worked, but the battery was undetected. So I took one of them apart and pulled the battery and was testing voltages, and then I tried to apply power directly to the connector, but there was no draw. So I ended up peeling back the cover for the 4-cell battery and found out that there are 2 in series and 2 in parallel, with the full voltage being 7.4 volts. So there's 4 3.7 volt batteries. That's brilliant. I know what to do with those. After testing the voltages on one set of cells, one was under 2.2 volts. So with my external power supply set to 2.5 volts and plenty of current, I connected to the positive and negative terminals until the power draw dropped to 0. Then I reconnected the connector and plugged in the USB power supply, and with my multimeter, watched the voltage rise on the batteries. Hooked it back up to the tablet, and it is now detected. Charged right up and held the charge. Same with the other keyboard, but it sadly did not work, even though the battery does show the full charge in the multimeter. But then I noticed that one of the pins on the connector to the tablet was busted off. I assume it has to be the one that makes the power detectable to the tablet because I couldn't get it up and running. But now if I do purchase another keyboard, I'll be able to just swap the battery over or force it working. And then I changed my mind. The keyboard that I fixed with the broken pin, I went back to it. I really wanted to know if it was properly fixed. So I got out my soldering iron and I mounted up a bit of solder on the broken pin and tested again. It was then seen by the system, which is awesome, but not necessarily stable because you move it around and it didn't want to work. It would connect and disconnect. So I got out the flux and I gave it another shot. It's still not perfect, but the connection is much better. And it still retains the keyboard and touchpad functionality. I really enjoyed those fixes. So now I have, 2 fully working tablets with 3 keyboards with extra batteries. They are getting a little old, so I don't know. I might swap them out for something else eventually. But for now, more than good enough. Excuse me. Good enough for journaling and maybe some light video watching. I still like my 1GX Mini, but the keyboard is really, really small on that. And the other nice thing about that one is you can hook it up to USB-C and just about anything will charge it. Now, I did end up ordering that 10-port adapter, and I did have to go into the BIOS and I had to adjust the power settings in there to get things to work right. And eventually, Proxmox did see it. It was a bit of an ordeal to figure that out, and I think I got it all working, and it was working okay. Made sure that all of my audiobooks were transferred and everything was set up. I didn't do any deletes because I was testing. Everything did seem to be working, and it should have freed up quite a bit of space on one of my drives. But after a couple of days, there was a problem where I needed to restart the Proxmox box. As far as I know, it didn't specifically have anything to do with any of the external drives, and it was a problem where I just couldn't get the page to load to actually be able to control Proxmox. But when I restarted, the drives did not come back. Multiple attempts at restarts and no such luck. I still don't know what the issue is. The lights were all on, the logs were showing nothing. Um, I, I had to switch back to the 5-port, and I also ended up ordering a 6-port, which I have not hooked up yet, but I do have available and will probably hook up today. So I don't know. It's starting to get annoying again, and I do still have those 2 other 8 terabyte drives that are hooked up to my garage PC that would do a whole lot better in the DAS instead of that 4 terabyte. What I'm thinking is if the 6-port doesn't work long term, there is a mini ITX computer that or board that I'm looking at with 2.5 gig ports on it already. It's about $180, but I'm not made of money. And it also takes SODIMM DDR4, so I would have to pull that from somewhere because I don't think I have any loose and sitting around. There is another one that I was also looking at that uses full-size RAM, and I'd have to pull the processor off one of the machines that's just sitting there, but it is another ITX, and I would be able to print something to make it go on to my mini rack. It is a little bit cheaper, but I like the fact that the other one has the low power processor, the 2.5 gig ports, and I could set it up as a router, which is a project that I'm going to be doing in the future anyway. Moving on from that, my nephew got a gaming laptop for free. He had joined the military, and one of his friends, I guess, had more money than sense. Pretty good one, too. I don't think I need to get into the exact stats. Huh? It's an Asus ROG, man. It's one of the really thin ones. Yeah, it's what, i7 11th gen or something. It's got what was it, a 40 series graphics card built in. I mean, and he just got it for free. Like, here you go. I can't get it to work. Okay.
God.
But it was overheating. The original account was still on it and everything, but I didn't have the password or anything. So before I knew what was wrong, I needed a way to test what was happening. I went into the BIOS. I changed a couple things around to let it network boot. And after that, I was no longer able to see the original OS, but that's because, I had removed the protections. I then used my trusty iVentoy and installed Linux Mint and pSensor. The thing was overheating if you looked at it funny. So I took it apart and I reapplied thermal paste to the CPU and GPU, and it seems to have helped a lot. I ran a couple of games. I ran Borderlands 2, and while the temps were not perfect, they didn't jump from nothing to 96, while opening the file browser. But this being for someone else, I needed to install Windows on it. I actually tried to install Windows 11 for my Ventoy, but it simply wouldn't load. Probably because it couldn't see any available drive, but I didn't know that at the time. Then I switched to a copy of Ventoy on a USB stick with Windows 10 and 11 on it. I did end up having to jump through a whole bunch of hoops to get it to see the hard drive from the BIOS, something with M.2 and that particular series of Asus ROG laptops. But I did finally get Windows 10 installed. I didn't put an account or anything on it. I do see the setup screen on every boot. So now I will take it back to Florida when I go. He should still be on leave at the time, and he will pick it up from me then, and I don't have to ship it anywhere. I did get him a new laptop bag because the bag he sent it in was garbage. So yeah. I'm also looking into potentially building like a Pi NAS to leave at my dad's house for a bit of an offsite backup. I'm not sure how useful it would be, but it would be fun to, get that set up between now and then. Also curious what else I could do with it. Probably use it as an rsync backup for important files.
I tried setting up a Pi NAS when a couple of years ago now, probably, and it's not as easy as you think,
Mm.
and it's not as performant as you think it might be. Um, I suppose if it's another, uh, you know, aspect of redundancy for your data, I suppose it doesn't need to be. Um, and I remember even speaking to Bill about it, and he was like, there's quite a few things, and the way that the Raspberry Pi OS works as well means stuff has to be formatted in a particular way, and all this kind of stuff. It kind of it seems like it's like a good project type thing, but actually how useful it is, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And it's definitely not something I would depend on, especially since it's going to be in a remote location that I cannot easily get to the hardware in order to be able to fix it. And there was really not going to be anybody around there that, is going to be technical enough to uh, get it fixed if something happens with it. So, but I was also thinking that I could grab a mini PC and do something similar. And I do think I have some of those sitting around, but I'd rather do some kind of Nookalike or something. So it might be interesting to have a Proxmox instance very far away and maybe, have it remote back in so that it seems like it's on the same network. Pass it through to WireGuard or something. But we'll see. Okay. And that's all I got. Majid?
That's actually shorter than I thought. Actually, I thought you were going to be
I
going.
go through quick. I mean, yeah, my notes always look long, but it's always relatively quick.
Okay, coolio then. All right then. So, what have I been up to for the last couple of weeks? Well, I have discovered the joys of Tailscale. So, for the three people who are watching this, who probably don't know what Tailscale is, it's a mesh VPN network. It's got this. They call it a tailnet. You have direct connections between each of your devices. It's based upon WireGuard, which is uh, the kind of encryption secure protocol. It also has this thing called NAT traversal, which I don't exactly understand, but it's a way of kind of punching through firewalls. Um, and and it's free, as in it's free in open source, and it's free as in free beer as well. And I had so the reason why I started looking into it was because, as you might have known, I have been having fun and games with the server, and one of the things that I've got on there is my Jellyfin instance. And to be honest, the Jellyfin is really only there for being able to stream media within my local network. Um, but I remember having some discussions with Bill and some of the other guys about, if I did want to access stuff from outside my network, how would I do it? Reverse proxies and port forwarding and all this kind of stuff. And Tailscale got mentioned, and I first tried it out about 18 months ago, I'll say, when the server was running Open Media Vault, and it caused it all sorts of weird random errors. So like at that time, I had Jellyfin on, I had Image, I had Audio Bookshelf. No, I didn't have Audio Bookshelf. I just had them two, and I was having all sorts of issues and this is my point about making life more difficult for myself by using Open Media Vault. If I just stuck with Ubuntu server, I might have been all right. Anyway, so when I then rebased the system on uh, Ubuntu, basically LTS, and started getting used to SSHing into it, started getting used to setting up the services as Docker Compose, learning my way around that. I kind of thought, well, look, it's fine at the minute. Why do I need to do anything? I don't need to do anything. I don't really need this stuff to be accessed from outside anyway. Um, but yeah, I just thought it would be good to kind of, everybody keeps saying that it's a relatively easy way, and I wasn't. I think there was a conceptual thing to this that I wasn't exactly getting what tail scale was. And so maybe that was the issue. I had a little bit of a light bulb moment when I kind of realized that when Tailscale makes its mesh network, it gives you an IP address, which can be even though it is somewhere else, and it leads to the other device that has Tailscale on it, and so now you can access that device, whether you want to SSH into it, whether you want to stream your media, stream your audio bookshelf or Jellyfin or whatever, by using that IP address rather than the local IP address that you do when you normally, on in your home network. And it was a particularly boring day at the hospital while I was sat there waiting in between patients, and I thought, well, let me just look into this, see how it works. And then I kind of clicked that it's not just about installing Tailscale on the server. It has to be on everything, all of the devices that you want to connect to it. So I did that, and then I found that yes, I could access my home server from the hospital Wi-Fi. I could, download files. I then discovered this thing called Taildrop, which is Tailscale's version of AirDrop, and I managed to download something on the hospital Wi-Fi on my laptop and then send it via Taildrop to my server at home. And I was just like, this is bloody excellent. This is brilliant. Um, and so it really is fantastic. And as I said, you gotta kind of have those kind of light bulb moments when the penny drops and I'm using so many bloody metaphors now. And you kind of understand what's happening in your head as to why how this thing works. But once you do,
Have you got
it's
your
brilliant.
magic DNS yet?
It's not. Yes, yes. So
Did you-
magic
Did you
DNS as
sit
well.
there though, clicking it? Or was it just me that clicked going, I don't like that, don't like that, don't like that,
I
don't like that, and keep refreshing. I sat there for half a day. I think
no, I
refreshing
haven't.
until
I
got
haven't
short.
tried that yet. I mean, yes. Yeah, good point. I never thought about that. Okay.
Hey, Majid, can I
so-
just
yeah, go on.
give an input here? So a couple of years ago, I tried Tailscale, and the thing about labeling and how people refer to things was really annoying after I tried using it, because like on Chris Fisher's podcast network and somebody else, oh, set up your VPN Tailscale, then you'll be secure. It's labeling and narrative how they refer to things. It should be called, they kept saying VPN
Yeah.
when they described it. It should be a secure tunnel to all the devices that you want to access. Don't
Yeah.
use the word VPN in there,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I thought, oh, I can set up there's a VPN, I can secure and go surf the internet, is what I thought it was, because it
Well,
kept saying
it
VPN,
is
VPN.
a virtual private network that you're creating, but it's not the VPN that you think it is sometimes. And I know what you mean, because
Yeah, when you say the words VPN, you think of one
Yeah.
server which everything goes through, and exactly. While this
You're
is
secure to the world, if you will,
yeah,
instead
yeah.
of securely connecting to your endpoints that you own or you're a part of the organization. Anyway, that's just
the only
my
No, you're right.
VPN
You're right.
they allow is Nomad, isn't it? Which was a bit irritating for me.
Yeah, I mean it's peer to peer basically, isn't it? It's peer to peer mesh network,
right, exactly.
which is so you're connecting your separate devices together rather than connect like in a traditional VPN where you've got, as I said, the one central server. And I think yeah, the nomenclature is important because you have an idea, isn't it? You hear the words VPN and you think of NordVPN, Surfshark, or
Exactly.
BIA or whatever
Yep.
things, Well, actually, and I said once that jigsaw piece fit in my head, I suddenly got how cool it was, and I was able to then use it. And as I said, I was transferring files that were like 2 gig from my phone via the hospital's Wi-Fi through the tailnet to my server at home, and I just thought that was just amazing, really. Do you know what I mean? And then even then, yeah, it was just, yeah, I must say it works really well, and I can only think of good things from it. I've not had any problems yet. I am sure I will, because that's
My
because it
problem,
wouldn't be Linux
my
otherwise.
problem with it is because I use a VPN on my phone. I use private internet access. You can't, and I really would like somebody to tell me how to do it because I could never find out how to do it. You can't use a VPN on a phone and use Tailscale without having to switch between the two.
Yeah,
So
that is
if
true.
I was working away, then all my data has to come all the way back to my house and come out through the exit node at my house, be on to go through the VPN I've set up on the modem. So
I
that
mean,
was the reason I've turned back to Cloudflare tunnels again. But I would like to give it a go again because I think it's an amazing service. 100 devices for free, so you can't really go too far wrong with it.
yeah, I mean, and I think one of the things that one of the things that I've started doing is you don't need to be connected all the time. Do you know what I mean? You can have things on your telnet which are connected, so like your home PC and my home server. But the devices that I take outside my house, I don't have to have them connected to my telnet unless I specifically want to for a specific reason. So I like, oh, okay, I want to transfer this file from my laptop to my home server, or I want to watch my Jellyfin or whatever. And then at other times, I can just close the Tailscale on my phone or my laptop and use my usual VPN to do my usual browsing and stuff. There is a way you are right, that you've said about how you can use a VP, even if you don't necessarily use a VPN. Just the fact that your traffic is going back to your telnet, which on your devices in your home network, means that for the outside world, that's where your devices are, connecting from. The only reason I know this is because a friend of mine um, went abroad when maybe he should have been working from home and was able to use Tailscale to make it look like he was still sat in the UK. Now, obviously, I would never advocate anything of that kind of nature,
Well, yeah,
but it's doable, you know. Yeah, so Tailscale, Tail Drop, I love it. I even the other thing I tried to do was to install, so you can even do remote desktop with it. And there's an app called Rust Desk that you can install. You can either install it as a Docker Compose, or you can install it as a thing, native deb package or something. Um, I had a few issues getting that to work, and I think I'm sure it was Picnic, probably in chair, not in computer. And I'm sure it was also the fact that the device I was using to try this out was Fedora. And not that there's a problem with Fedora, but I have less experience with Fedora and IPM-based distros, so I probably made some mistake in the setup or something like that. But yes, there is an app called Rust Desk. So if anybody wants, with which you can then use to remote desktop into your devices using your telnet, which is cool. Okay, sometimes when something like works really well, it doesn't happen that often. But when something works really well, and you think, "Damn, that's cool, man." I had one of those situations. So yeah, I mean, this might just show how sad and bored I was at the hospital. But anyway, speaking of distros, Fedora has gone. I had Fedora on my work device. The reason for that was at the time when I was trying to change onto the latest version of Mint, some error happened and my Linux partition got wiped because Windows 11 dual boot does that kind of thing. And the only thing I had with me was a Ventoy stick, and that Ventoy stick had Fedora. And I just thought, well, I just need to get back into this and sort this out. And so I'd installed Fedora, and Fedora was fine. I mean, it was GNOME. I'm actually a fan of GNOME. I know that's not a particularly popular thing now sometimes to say, but especially on laptops, it does make me wonder whether if I would change my mind if I tried using it on this desktop that I've got here. I've never used GNOME on a desktop. I've always ever used it on laptops, and especially because nearly all of my laptops are touchscreen, so I find it works quite well in that paradigm. I even wrote, I remembered I even wrote an article 10 years ago now, bloody hell, about how GNOME was the touchscreen OS of the future. Um, I don't know why that randomly came to mind, but anyway. But yeah, now there there were some issues. As I said, probably my probably me as the problem, but I decided to put Mint on, and I did. Linux Mint 22.3. I did think about whether to try LMDE or just go with the main line, and in the end, I just thought I'd just go for the main line. And because sometimes you just want that comfortable pair of slippers that you just know how it works. And so that's that. The other device, which runs Ubuntu 25.10, now runs Ubuntu 26.04 because I upgraded that. And to be honest, I haven't really explored. Everything seems all right though, so I can't. Hopefully that should be all right. I did notice the thing about Pipewire now being a snap, which did lead to a kind of audio issue for a bit. Um, but but then I don't know. Reboot seems to have sort of fixed it. So I can only assume that the service got disappeared, and then when I rebooted it, it then got restarted. But now as a snap, I know there's some philosophical, shall we say, problems with that as an idea. Um, that would just get into a very long conversation, so I'm just going to leave that for a second. I had one question about KDE Wallet. So I did install, I have got Kubuntu on this machine here, and I keep getting all of these kind of prompts to sign into KDE Wallet, use KDE Wallet for my passwords and stuff like that. Can't seem to bloody switch it off. I mean, again, have I missed something? It just keeps offering to. I mean, it's not really annoying in the way that, like, say, Google Password Manager is or something like that. But I don't know. Every couple of days, it seems to kind of decide to remind me. Oh, you're going onto this website. Do you want to save this password to your KDE wallet? And I'm kind of like, no, I don't actually. No, thank you. Um, Again, probably a picnic problem. I talked a little bit last.
I'm not good on this, but I don't think it's anything to do with your website passwords. It's all to do. Who else uses KDE here? Cricket, right? Yeah, so I think it's all to do with like your login passwords and things like that.
Yeah.
Like, rather than being.
No, I mean it's fine. And yeah, I mean you're right. It is more about the hardware stuff rather than stuff that's on the website and stuff
Yeah,
like
you'll have to set it up.
But I don't want
KDE
to.
Wallet is
I don't
KDE
want it.
Wallet a password manager or is it something
No,
else?
I'm trying to think of the equivalent on GNOME. GNOME wallets. No, it's.
When I think of
But
wallet,
you need.
when I think of wallet, I think of money, finance.
Yeah, no,
So,
it's. I may be mistaken, but it's just it's a place where it stores internal passwords.
Yeah.
it's a password manager,
but
and
not.
we call it KDE Wallet. What's confusing about that? Anyway,
Yeah, okay. It's a tool to manage passwords on the KDE Plasma system. And it's a K-wallet subsystem which allows the user to keep it secret. And that's according to the Arch Wiki, so it must be true. So yeah, that's what it is. And it integrates into KDE. There's also plugins for Firefox and Chrome.
it's an asinine label, naming convention, in my opinion. That's just me.
Yeah, don't sit on the fence there, Charles. Yeah, tell us what you really think. Okay. Anyway, so if anybody knows exactly how to switch that off, please let me know. I mentioned last time that I had resurrected a Samsung Galaxy Tab S2 with Lineage OS and using it as a e-reader type thing. I actually upgraded it because these are all alphas and community editions, and people doing this from their bedrooms or their offices or whatever. So I get it's going to be slightly buggy. There's going to be some issues, but it's completely revitalized that little machine. There are some issues, like the camera, for example, doesn't seem to work once you get past Android 14, and that's something to do with Samsung's proprietary blobs. And obviously they're not supporting it. I mean, this is a device that came out in 2015, and it only went up to like Android 7. But as a little, just an 8-inch e-reader style, I can just read books, PDFs, and things like that. I'm really happy with it. It's one of the few. I want to say one of the few, but it just shows the power of, if you know how to, tinker with some of your stuff, and you've got a community behind it. Things that you can do rather than just turning stuff into e-waste. Our friend here, Immutable Charlie, had been talking about Graphene OS. I can't remember if it was on the Linux OTC, which I wasn't on, or it was on a mintCast roundtable. I can't remember, but that conversation started. So I got a hold of an old Pixel 6 and installed Graphene OS on it, and it's nice. It works really well. I haven't found a reason to use it yet. That's because it's a spare device. Do you know what I mean? And it's not. Yeah, it's just like a spare phone that I've got. That I could just tinker with. So I don't know if I was to start using it properly and try getting my banking and all this kind of stuff on. And
banking can be funny.
Yeah.
Banking can be.
Actually, I know where it came. I know where the conversation came from. It was that episode of OTC, your first one, where I wasn't on it, and I remember, was it Eric said, "Oh, you're actually walking the, you're walking the walk and you're talking the talk, but actually having, free and open source, this, that, and the other." And the reason why I'm remembering that now is because one of the things I did think to myself was, while I was using it, I was thinking, you know what? I don't think I've actually got the guts to walk the walk and talk the talk on this. It's great as a secondary thing, but I don't know whether I'm brave enough to use it full
It works
time.
really well. You've got to go through the pain barrier. It's definitely, I think, worth the time. Once you will have certain apps for the bank and things like that. But even if you add the Play services, it still doesn't like it.
Yeah.
There's a few apps that still don't work. But if you just have a spare phone which you keep to one side and keep it in a Faraday box like I do, so that nobody can get to it. But then it's just, if you don't want to be spied on by Google,
Yeah,
that's it. That's the whole thing. It's pure privacy all the way through. And if you've got anything secret on there and somebody tries to get in, they hold a gun to your head and they give you a password. You can just give them the wrong password and it will delete your phone. So if you're being stopped at customs and you don't want to find your something on your phone that you might some important information about the NHS, you can give them a false password and boom, it'll all wipe.
Yeah. So anyway, the one thing I would say though is it would be good if Graphene OS was available on non-Pixel devices, because one of the issues with Pixels is they all run the Tensor chipset, which is a bit pants, really. It's not particular. Now you could argue, how strong, how powerful you want your phone to be. I don't know, but I'm just saying, it would be good if it was, we could install it on, say, Samsung phones or others, with better
Well,
hardware.
Motorola's coming, isn't it? So
Yeah, I hear that. I hear that. I'll be very interested to see what happens with that.
give it a longer try. I'd like, really you've got to stick with it, and then you'll see if it's good.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on. So I have always been a big fan of the Chromecast. I had the original Chromecast back in 2013 when it came out, just as a little little dongle. And then when that finally died, I got the newer version, which was of Chromecast 4K. That would have been about when? 2018, 2019, something like that. And I've used it on all my TVs. It's great. It was a great way of making a dumb TV into a smart TV, and even if you did have a smart TV, it was a much better interface. The thing that I liked was the cast functionality, the fact that I could decide what I'm watching from my phone. You know, I could press YouTube, I could press Netflix. Amazon used to be a bit funny about it, but then after a while, even Amazon was all right with it, and you could watch Prime Video on it. Now, I think it's starting to die. I keep getting all these every time I kind of put it on, it keeps saying weak HDMI signal. I unplug it, put it back in. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I think it's the cable. I think the cable, because it kind of hangs off the back, and if something's been hanging off the back of a TV for like 5 years, is it 5 years? Well, however long it's been, right? Then you can kind of understand that it probably starts fraying or whatever.
So what you're saying is that you need to learn how to solder.
Yes, that is one possible answer that could be that could come from this. Probably the more likely thing, knowing that I have not very good skills when it comes to soldering or anything of that sort, is
You know how you
to
get better at soldering?
Doing more soldering, I bet.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Practice,
Yeah.
practice,
All right.
practice, practice.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, old drug, new tricks, etc. Anyway, Anyway, I'm thinking of getting a replacement anyway. And the Chromecast has been discontinued, as a product line, because Google is Google, and they like to kill all their good things
Yeah, I can't imagine
and
that
replace
happening,
them with
right?
inferior things.
Dude.
So the thing that they've got now is this thing called the Google TV Streamer box, which is like a box with a remote and all that, and it's like £100. And I'm like, the whole point of the Chromecast was that it was relatively cheap, and you could just plug it into the back, and you wouldn't even know it existed, and you can just use your phone. Which, let's be honest, most of us are on more than we're going to be using on a remote. I know Jim's not here to say you should be using a remote, but I'm just saying, right? And I was just like, that's ridiculous. I'm not spending £100 to Google to get a Wi-Fi 5 blooming streaming box for £100. I thought, nah.
Dude, I picked up a Chromecast yesterday, and it'll probably go into my next bi-weekly, or well, my next wanderings, my monthly wanderings. But I got it for $9. So
yeah, I suppose it's just that I can just buy.
So when's the EOL end of life on Chromecast devices?
I think it's 10 years, if I remember correctly. So I think it is hitting it.
Give me your address. I can send you mine. I have one in the cupboard that I don't use. So
your Chromecast?
Really?
Yeah, Chromecast. Yeah, a little white one like this. Yeah.
Do that.
Yeah, I have a Chromecast and a Fire Stick, and I can't stand either one of them, mainly because I can't.
Honestly.
Well, it all goes back to remote. Jim thinks that little remote for the Fire Stick is the greatest thing since sliced bread. I think it's a piece of crap.
Yeah.
The best remote I ever have, and I'll take this to my grave, was the Harmony remote, which was full size. You could plug it up, download the codes for your devices, and then use them. But they went out of business. But
Yeah.
these little dinky remote control, and you're trying to navigate these little buttons that aren't clear what the buttons are.
Look.
Yeah.
But again,
there's this $14 USB powered device that you can get on Amazon, which is an IR blaster that you hook up.
Or if you've got one of the Chinese phones like OnePlus, Oppo, and Xiaomi, they actually have an IR blaster on the phone
Or
as
the
well.
old Samsung Note phones had the IR blaster on them too.
Yeah.
Like the really old ones, like the Note 3 had an IR blaster on it. But
Note 4, yeah.
that USB powered IR blaster one, I mean, you just set it up near your TV, you plug it in, you hook up the app to your phone, and then you can control whatever freaking device right from your phone with the remote, just like that. But since you were talking about these devices, yeah, this one's a little bit different. It looks like a round piece about that big, but yeah, it's same idea.
USB-C. You can plug it into your phone and it becomes an IR blaster.
Well, see, I don't want it attached to my phone. I want it, hooked up and then being able to control it from my phone. But yeah. You're talking
Oh,
about
so
the Google
so
TV.
yeah, so I'm just thinking about what things I can get instead, right?
All right.
Now, I already have an Amazon Fire Stick, right? It's the cheapest one, and it's on. Where is it on? Is it on my mom's TV? I think I gave it to my mom. Anyway, point I'm trying to say about that is, uh, I saw a news article about how. I mean, I already know that Amazon are going to this whole Vega OS Linux based, which is not. It's not really. I mean, it is, but it's it's completely. It's all about web apps. It's all about bringing back to Amazon servers. Nothing's going to be installed on the device. It's a way of stopping side loading and stuff like that. And they're going to bring. They've said they've made the first device, the 4K Select, but it's now going to be rolling out to the others. Now, so I thought to myself, should I get another Fire Stick? Because they still run, at the moment, they still run Android. Before, because I'm assuming what will happen is that they'll sell all the ones that they've got, and then the new stuff that comes will all be on this new whatever OS. And so I thought about that, and then I thought to myself, well, why don't I just get an Android TV box? You see loads of loads of these up on eBay, for like 30-40 pounds. But yeah, and they have like Android 14 and 12 gigs of RAM or whatever. And then you kind of like, yeah, but I mean, there's it has to, that is kind of just being a throwaway, because that's never going to get any support of any description. Do you know what I mean? I thought about what Joe has often said about why don't I just get a little PC that I could put on the bottom of my TV. But the thing is that with the prices now, of RAM and storage and all that, getting a kind of cheap little mini PC box that you could put underneath your TV, I don't think it's not cheap anyways, put it that way. It's my point, right? And if I'm complaining about using a bloody Google TV streamer
Well,
for 100 quid, then maybe
you
go on.
you can also get like a Roku stick, and the nice
I
thing
don't like Roku. I
I
don't like Roku.
generally I'm not going to disagree with you. The only thing that I like about the Roku sticks, as opposed to like the Roku TV or whatever, is the fact that you can do the whole Samsung DeX, like right out of the box, the wireless DeX with,
Oh,
which is the best
didn't
part.
know that.
Yeah.
Because the thing I didn't like about Roku's is the fact that you can't put your own apps onto it. You can't do the side loading or anything like that.
You have an old laptop or something you could just use.
How would
You
the how would the how would the old laptop? So what? I connect
Same
the laptop up.
same way you would
just
with a
install,
mini PC.
yeah, just install OpenELEC, and then you've got it. You're on your way. It's basically
Yeah, so that was
to put
the
an
question I was going to ask about, because I have in the past, when I used to have a couple of extra Raspberry Pis around, I had like installed like LibreELEC, but I haven't done that for a while, so I don't know. And I keep hearing stuff about services not working with Kodi in the same way that they used to before. I don't know if that's true, or because I don't know if you remember, Charlie, but there was a thing a couple of years ago about dodgy Kodi boxes, which was but after that it seemed that a lot of services just became quite difficult to use with Kodi in the same way. Anyway, but that's, I suppose that's another option. Yeah,
I think it is LibreELEC. I think you're right. It's
yes,
not
LibreELEC.
OpenELEC. It's LibreELEC. Yeah.
Yeah, but
But
I mean,
I don't know whether you can. They were always the ones where you could get all the dubious services, but I think they've started to block that because of its legal reasons.
Yeah, which is fine, but I mean, can you put on the actual services that you do have that are fine, like Jellyfin or your Netflix or
yeah.
your Prime or your VLC?
Well,
That's the thing.
you could also do something like get that Dell Venue 11 Pro that I was talking about, which is just a little tablet, or one of the Dell Latitudes, one of the older ones. And you're still looking in the like sub $100 range, especially if you're not looking at the keyboards. And as long as they have a HDMI output or a mini HDMI output, and you have a way to power them, that's still a really small device that you can use as a set-top box. You set it up behind your TV with a couple of brackets so that it doesn't go anywhere. You plug it in, you hook up the HDMI, and then you put KDE Connect on your phone and KDE Connect on that device. You have it run Linux, and then you put OpenELEC as a front end or whatever. What is it?
LibreELEC.
Not
LibreELEC, yeah.
LibreELEC. The LibreELEC is the entire operating
Kodi.
system. I'm just talking about the front
Kodi.
end. The
Cody.
yeah, the Kodi front end on there, and then have it run like a set-top box. And then in the background, you have everything else that you would normally have running, if you wanted.
That sounds like a little plan.
It sounds like a nice little project.
It does actually. I could use my. I could even connect up my. Yeah. Okay. Fine. That's
On to the chucks.
well, just before we get to the chucks, last thing was, has anybody on here? I know you hear people talk about how great Apple TV is. Obviously, people who use iOS and iPads and all that kind of crap. Has anybody got any experience of using them when you've got no other Apple devices, and whether that's actually worth it or not? Just a question. I wasn't expecting anybody to, but
Never
I just
touched
thought
them.
I'd ask. Okay, that's
Use
fine.
Apple.
Yeah. Okay, fine. Yes,
and I
it
just
is
seen
now.
now there is an OpenELEC and a LibreELEC. Just seeing it now. So anybody pulls me up on it, yeah.
Cool. All right. Now it's time for the chucks.
The chucks. So Chuck one, checking in here, Charles, aka Charles. So my wandering is a couple weeks ago. Trying to learn more about AI and AI tools. I stumbled across this video on YouTube. You've been using AI the hard way. Use this instead. And the guy, you may have heard of him, Network Chuck. I don't know if you've heard of him. Anyway, so this is his video, and I've listened to it. So his setup is not the same as mine, but the concept is the same. So I decided. So he used Claude API or Claude Code, Gemini, and ChatGTP, I think. But part of the problem is with this is to get this to work an enhancement, you have to use the paid version. So just keep that in mind. I was able to get some free credits in the setup I was using and use it until I exhausted them. But anyway, so so I used what is it? Open Code and Cursor, if you will. So and part of the thing with these things, you have to use two things or a couple of things to get the full benefit of doing it this way. Open Code and Cursor, you can look at its CLA context framing for coding, but I'm not a coder, but you can use it to do other things. And in the video that Network Chuck did there, he may be a coder, but he was using it for different things. So just at a high level, AI. So if you think of these two together, they're two AI assisted work platforms, Open Code and Cursor. And together, uh, you can do things like it gives you a chat style interface where you can ask it for help, and it gives you access to your local files and project context. Optional use like terminal commands and connected services. So the whole concept of this whole kind of trial thing is that if you're using just the chat box, chat GGP, and you're typing in and you're asking a question, it loses context and it doesn't, it forgets what your session's about, what you're about, and then you have to kind of start over again. In this kind of setup, you can set up what they call context information in the form of markdown files so when you do a query or ask it to do something, it references those MD files, markdown files, and you can just say, go do this, write it out, and it saves it and you can recall it. It's not perfect. It's like I said, I only got to play for a couple of days because I exhausted the tokens. But I was in that video. If you watch the video, he does some amazing things with it. This is gonna sound weird, but it kind of sounds like magic, if you will. But yeah. So it was kind of my first foray into this. I'd only been using the the ChatGPT web interface. This is all on a CLI and a command line, and there's some setup you have to do for it, but it was surprisingly interesting. There's a little bit confusion, it's one of those things, the more you use it, the more you get better at it. But like, for instance, one of the things it talks about to make this setup more effective, you set up a context folder, and then you put up a like about me.md. So I put in there, I'm not a coder. I have IT background. When you explain something to me, tell me in a high level, simple, less techy format so it's easy understandable. And then again, when you do a query, it looks at the stuff in your context folder and it references that, so it gives you better answers and you can iterate on this. I mean, I tried this a little bit with the show notes and stuff that I was setting together. I said, hey, put in my hobbies and my about me. I said, oh, I participate in a podcast. It's about this, Linux Mint, other open source technologies. So when I would do a query, I said, hey, I want to talk about these subjects, do a summary of them, put it in language where it's not, super techy, but easy to understand. Boom. It'll ask you, it how do you say, writes it out to the screen and asks you, do you want me to write it to a file? You say, yes, do it. And that's all you have to do, and it writes it out. So you can use PDFs for reference in your context workspace. Um, PDFs in MD format is AI is very it loves that, and it can ingest it, if you will. So yeah, like I said, it was very interesting. Like I said, I haven't played with it a lot. I would have kept going more, but again, I ran out of tokens and stuff like that for the free tiers. So, um, yeah, in his network, Chuck's video, he shows how he does for his podcast, writes out a script, and then there was a part where it says, in part of his persona or context, it says, evaluate the stuff that I write, be brutally honest. Is it crap? Does it need more? Does this need to be fixed or understanding? And it gives back and say, this sucks, rewrite it, better format so that people can understand it. So you can do a lot, it has a lot of power. It's very interesting. Anyway, like I said, one of the things that's interesting about these AI tools is that it's like right now it's not democratized, so it takes money to get the full benefit of it, and that's not equal to because a lot of people can't afford $20 a month for 5 different AI platforms and agents and stuff. So anyway, yeah, I watched that video. It's kind of interesting, the stuff they can do. This is a side note. At the end of the video, and I've watched several of his other videos, not a whole lot, but he talks about something in his personal life, which I was kind of surprised that he put in there. But it's one of those subjects you don't talk about in public or forum because of the controversy. I mean, what he talks about is not controversy, but I was surprised he did it on a YouTube thing. It's about his personal beliefs and his family and stuff like that. But anyway, yeah. So that was my kind of wandering, playing with AI and AI tools, and trying to learn more about it so I can, how do you see, enhance my education around that subject. So there you go. So I think Chuck Charlie
Coolio.
number 2 is up.
Yeah, Chuck number 2.
Chuck 2.
Chuck 2,
So,
the return. This
Chuck
time he's
2.
pissed.
So mine is actually at the start. So I've got 3 different things. I've just knocked one off because it's getting a bit long, I suppose. So first of all, I became a Linux Mint patron because I thought Linux Mint is so amazing. I've got to give back in some way. So I decided I was going to become a patron. In UK, it's £4 plus tax of £4.80, and I was quite happy. I thought that's a reasonable amount for me to pay in my particular circumstances at the moment. So I joined up on it, and I have to say I was a little bit miffed afterwards. It's not because I didn't want I wanted special recognition. It's just that when I went on and I clicked and I became a patron, it said, you get access to Discord, where you'll meet other patrons. And I thought, oh, well, that's nice. You got the patrons all chatting together. When I clicked on the Discord, it just took me to the Linux Mint general
Discord, yeah,
server
which
with
you don't
everybody
even,
else.
yeah, exactly, which you don't need
Not
to
the
be
elite
a patron.
patrons. But maybe I've done something wrong. So if anybody knows, please join us in the mintCast chat on Discord and tell me what I'm doing wrong. But I thought it
Oh, how difficult! You have to stay with all the serfs and the servants.
all the plebs. I had to just
all the
jump in
plebs, yeah,
with
flipping heck.
everybody. Oh my
Whatever
goodness,
next,
that's
yeah.
absolutely not possible. I need a well, like Mrs. Bouquet. I need a slimline private auditioned room just for us. Anyway, no, but I'm just interested to know if there is this sort of patron area to go to. But I'm just happy now that I can give a little bit to the to this distribution, which I now have fallen in love with. Now I've been de-brainwashed from GNOME. I'm really happy that, because once you get used to using a desktop, everything's muscle memory, and it's started to fade now. So I'm happy. I do feel like I've gone a little bit back to using the Windows method, but I can live with that. But it's just such a brilliant. So I put a couple of links there to the Discord server and to if anybody else wanted to become a patron. It's easy to do. Now, I also, speaking about being trendy, I also thought, I keep hearing about this cult of ThinkPad. And I've got to get in on some of this action because it's where all the cool kids are on laptops. So I decided to purchase myself a ThinkPad T520, which seems to be one of the popular ones because it seems you can change the CPU, which you can't do on the modern ones. Are all in, and it's basically like a little framework, but old school. Now,
what computers used to be like,
yes,
right?
Yes, in the good old days, yes.
Yeah.
So I looked online, and they're about 130 quid if you buy them new. And so one popped up that was there on auction. It was around about 25, but it was BIOS locked. So BIOS locked. And I thought, well, what am I going to do? So I thought, before I make a bid, I'm going to do a little bit of research. So I looked, and there was a couple of different methods how to undo it. So I put in a bid using my little Gixon, which that helps me win the Gixon. It's puts the bid in at the last second. So
one of those bots.
Yeah. So it jumps in. So it just stops it going up and up and up and up, and if everybody jumps in. Anyway, that's there's not always people are happy about using it. Anyway, so and I got it for £46 in the end. And I mean, £46 at the moment, I think in the United States, that's about $6,300 approximately, with the present exchange rate. So I got it. It came through the post. It arrived, and I thought, what am I going to do? So I watched a few more videos, and I decided to go for the manual method, which is to short a little. It's called a PSO8 or LSO8. Basically, I took it apart, which is the challenge in itself, and then I just like on the video, it was some chap, I think, in Bangladesh. So it was a very poor quality video that I was following, and he was just using a nail. So I thought, well, at least I'll use a screwdriver. So I touched it at the right point, switched it on, it went, and I thought, oh my goodness, that's it. 50 quid down the drain. Goodbye. And then it came alive, and I was able to access the BIOS. The password had gone. And voila, there it was, a beautiful, nice new cult of ThinkPad 520. Now, I tried to install LMDE on it, which was not successful. For some reason, it doesn't like, the Debian base doesn't like to go onto this machine. I did use, yeah.
This is a second.
Kept going.
This is a second Gen i5. I'm just going to point that out. It's
old.
it's old.
Very old, yeah. So Debian was not happy. It just kept going straight. It installed, everything went through the installation, but it just kept going back to the boot manager. If anybody's got any experience about that, it would be great if they could also share that in the mintCast Discord chat as well, because I just couldn't get it to work. I had Grok helping me. I tried many different AIs through Merlin AI, and they all came up with basically told me to go and try Ubuntu, and I installed the Ubuntu version of Linux Mint, and it's been working like a charm. I did install the one with which one? Not Mint, the XFCE version, but I just can't get used to it. So I'm going to reinstall back to the Cinnamon version, which I think will go down really well. So that's great. So you can see
Merlin.
you can just for 50 quid.
Did you say Merlin AI is what you use? Did you say?
Merlin, it's Get Merlin AI. It's actually getmerlin.in, and it's a low cost way of using all different AIs. So you can use Claude, you can use ChatGPT, you can use Gemini, you can use Max. I can't remember the name of it now. Max something, and it just uses credits. About 70 quid a year. I had all the different. You've got all of. Well, I bought it originally as a lifetime deal, so I got a special price. But I think £70 a year, you've got access to all these different AIs, which is really good. Anyway,
Okay.
so yeah, so have a look at it. It's actually a really good one. So it's very easy now. Afterwards, then I found a better way of, or a better instruction how to do it. So I've put up on these show notes there of a blog post about somebody who's showing you how to reset various different ThinkPads. Some of them, or most of them, are using the shorting out the EPROM, the nail or a screwdriver. So it's really good. It's a good little machine though. It doesn't have a HDMI. It's got the display port. It's got a fingerprint reader. Doesn't have a webcam.
Does the fingerprint reader work?
I haven't even tried it yet. Yeah,
because that's always an issue on Linux, I find.
Yeah, it's always a bit of a. I'm not a big fan of them. I have it on the Framework 13, but it's just such an inconvenient spot, so I never use it. I just type in my password quickly. But it's a nice little machine. So if you're looking for something cheap and cheerful as your new streaming box, then maybe one of these little babies might help you. Get you the right size nail to do it. Right. So that's one thing. Now the next adventure I took, because I've always liked Brave, but I just don't want all that Web3 stuff, and all the extras that are pumped into it. I understand why they have it, because they've got to pay the bills. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of people, they're always complaining about it being there. But I mean, that's the choice you get. It's like getting a car and then complaining it's not got the wheels that you want to have on it. You buy the car as it is, and if you don't like it, don't buy the car. This is my own personal opinion. But I've always said I would love to use Brave, but if it didn't have all these whistles and bells and Web3 things involved. I have a little bit of a thing against Web3 because of Luna, which I invested in quite some time ago, and the guy did a runner, and the crypto coin went dead overnight. So I did lose a few. Well, I invested a couple of £1,000 in this one called Luna, which went to the moon, as they say, and it was up about £16,000, and I was like, way! And then the guy who set it up did a runner. He's now in prison. And he went down to bottom.
If I was to start talking about the amount of money that I have lost on crypto,
I'm there with you.
We're all in the same boat.
Yeah, idiots that we are. Okay, fine. But sorry.
Moving on. So anyway, and I wanted to test them out a bit, because every every browser has some controversy. You know, there's a lot of controversy with Firefox. People often say, "Oh, why are you using Brave? You should use Firefox." But Firefox also has its controversies. You know, their CEO basically had to resign because of a certain donation he made to what some people consider to be politically incorrect, and he actually then went on to start the Brave browser. So and then of course Firefox has also had the famous Mr. Robot issue, when they installed an extension which nobody wanted, and this people got very creeped out about it. And there's been lots of controversies. So, and Brave has also got its controversies as well. You know, they did exchanging of the referral links for things like to services. They changed the referral links to their own. They also replaced ads on people's websites. They also changed, or they collected money or donations for content creators who hadn't even signed up to their BAT service, and they'd never paid it out. So they said it was all errors, but they've got over that now, and now it's I believe it's a very, very good browser, but I just didn't want to do it. But now, this week, they brought out the beta version of the Brave Origin. So this is literally just the Brave browser by itself, none of the crypto stuff. Now, one of the great things about using Linux in this case is that it's for free to use Linux. Now, there's two ways of doing it. One, you can download the script, run the script, and it will install Brave Origin. Or you can just download the nightly Debian file, or whichever you prefer, install it, and then a couple of clicks, and that will change it then to Brave Origin. So it will then remove everything. But the thing about, you've got a choice really, because the thing about the one that, when you change the Brave Nightly to Brave Origin, you still have the ability to switch on some of the things you may like Speed Reader, or the links to web archive and things like that, so that you can switch them back on again. Whereas the one you install via the script is literally with nothing. There's nothing on there. And if you can also do the same on your cell phone. So, but you have to pay for that. So I decided, look, I want to support this. I want them to be able to do it. So I paid the £60, and it's about $60, about £46, and I got my account. It's a lifetime account. How true that is, who knows? But in theory, I shouldn't have to pay again. And they are saying that it will change to a monthly payment rather than just being like a lifetime deal. Now, it has to be noted that with this deal, you get 10 installations. Now, that means that if you're distro hopping, you might go through those 10 very quickly. And the Tech Law website, they've been in contact with them. They said, yeah, we're still working out a way to make it like 10 installations rather than 10 activations as it was before. So yeah, so this is the latest thing now. And now I did a few little tests on the web browsers just to see, really, is it any quicker? So when I did a test running the speed test, it's called speed test 3.1 on browserbenchmark.org. Firefox got 20.5. The higher is the better. Waterfox, which I used before, got 18.1, which I was surprised about. That's very low. And then all the Braves all got about the same. It was all about 24.1. So the Brave is actually a quicker, a faster browser than some of the other ones, which is quite interesting to note. All of them passed the EFF. If you go onto the EFF website, it's called, let me just cover your tracks, it's called, and you can test your browser out there. And the one nice thing about the Brave is that you also get the fingerprinting, which you can do on WaterFox and things like that, but it does require the installation of an extra extension to do it. It's good to take any browser over there to the FF. This is the FF. This is their new shirt. You know, if you're a member of the FF, they send you a nice little shirt like this. Also worth contributing to. And also ad blocking as well. So I did run a test. There is something called adblocktester.org, or with a hyphen in the middle there, and that one it scored with uBlock Origin, which you have to install on those. It gave 96 out of 100 for the Brave browsers, but 100 out of 100 for the ones with uBlock Origin, the Firefox, the WaterFox. Of course, LibreWolf has it built in. I couldn't run a test on LibreWolf because it failed each time. But it's interesting, you know. But if you want to get a nice, clean, fast browser, there is, of course, Helium as well, which is also an excellent browser. But the big problem I find, which I don't like about Helium, there's no syncing. Maybe in the future they'll have it, and it'll be a good competition to the Brave browser. But it's because there's no syncing of extensions or bookmarks. It's just not for me. I need everything to be in one place. So those are my little adventures. Has anybody any questions I'd like to ask?
So I after seeing this, I actually looked into Brave Origin as well. I use Brave as my main browser now. I do have Firefox as a backup. I used to use Vivaldi. I was using Vivaldi exclusively for a couple of years, but I moved to Brave mainly because it's. Yes, I know there's a couple of things that are a bit problematic that people have, but you know, I mean, it's let's be honest, you know, stones, glass houses, etc. And you know, I can live with it. And I just
Every
don't use
browser
them
has
that
its
well.
ones.
Yeah, yeah,
Every
yeah,
browser has
yeah.
some sort of issues.
But most fundamentally, it works quickly. You know, it's a fast performant browser. It's Chromium based, so therefore you have less breakage on sites, which was always an issue with Firefox because of the Gecko engine. And the killer feature for me, right? And I know it's not for everybody, but for me is the syncing without having an account. You know, which I love that. Do you know what I mean? Even Firefox makes you have an account and a web email and all this kind of stuff. So I've kind of moved over to Brave for almost everything. So once I saw this, I thought, oh, let me look into it. Then I thought, I don't want to pay 60 quid. I mean, straight up. And then I saw the thing about how if you got the nightly and if you got it on Linux, then it was free. So just before the we started, I just downloaded it, and I've just been looking into it, and it's I kind of see. I saw Tech Law talking about this. I've actually put that into the check this out, and he made an interesting observation, which was that yes, they've stripped a lot of stuff out, especially the Web3 and the crypto wallet, back token, all this kind of stuff, but they've also stripped out some of the functionality as well. And so I mean, he said, what he basically said was, if you're on Linux, it's a no-brainer. It's free. Just do it. For the 60 quid, he wasn't so sure. But obviously,
Yeah,
you know,
but
that's
just
his
remember
opinion.
that you can install just the regular Brave Nightly, and then there is a box if you go down in the settings, which will then, when you click it, it will change it to Origin, but then it keeps little switches so you can turn back on any of those services which were removed. Whereas when you install it through the script, it's all gone. Literally, it's not even in the browser anymore. So like for you, that if you like to keep Speed Reader, or maybe you want to use Bat or some of the other ones, as you know, because he uses a few of those, I watch the same one, and then you can just check them back on again and they'll activate.
Yeah, cool.
So, Charlie, I think you have a typo. You said U.S. It's 46 pounds UK, and you have it at 6,300
Yeah.
US. I think it should be $63.
Yeah, that I was being
he was
sarcastic about the state of the dollar at the moment.
Okay.
yeah, that went over someone's head, didn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it was. I did it purposely. I was only joking.
Oh, okay. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So now in shocking news, there is actually some feedback. There is actually some vibrations from the ether. Go ahead. Now so this is from Joe
Runker.
Runker, sorry.
Or
I
Runcer.
don't who did he was it emailed to the main email, or
Yes,
was
it
it
was.
to
Yes,
one
it
of you
was.
directly? Okay.
Because
Okay.
Bill and
So
I both
Joe.
responded on it. So,
Okay.
yeah, Joe sent an email. Hi, guys. You are making a great show, and I'm enjoying it greatly. I'm also a Mint user and haven't booted my Windows PC in 6 months. Because you are my people, I wanted to ask if anyone uses Jellyfin and maintains a library. I do and would like to swap notes with another user. Regards, Joe. And then I replied, and Bill had also replied, and there was a bit of back and forth about potentially sharing servers in the future. But I don't have mine, available with any type of a port forwarded to it. And I'm not giving anyone free reign on my home server. So, yeah. But they also had a further conversation where I'm really not sure if it's Runker or Runser. But hi, Bill. Thanks for reaching out. I should probably follow your lead and try to set up a reverse proxy. I'm like you, self-taught, and everything I do beyond the basics is hours of struggle. That said, I have struggled through quite a bit, and I have things running. ChatGPT has been very helpful. And then he says, here is another project of mine, SDR. Have you heard of it? He included a link to a personal server, so I'm redacting unless, he sends back with specific permission to do otherwise. I responded. I have a couple of friends that do the software-defined radio thing for fun. Joel over on the Linux Link Tech Show, and a friend back in El Paso named Paul that used to hop on some of the shows. I'm actually a little surprised that Bill has not gone down the rabbit hole yet, but not really something that I've gotten all that into. And then there was another email from Phil. If you could take that for me, I have to. Majid, could you read that other email from Phil right there?
Sure. Okay. So Phil says, greetings all. This article by isfast.com caught my eye today. I wonder what effect, if any, there will be on Linux Mint Mate in the future. Martin Wimpress's full post on the issue can be found here. Looks like a couple of people have put their hand up to assist, but I wonder if there'll be anyone with the time and resources to take over from Martin. I only briefly used Mate when I switched to Linux Mint in 2019. I was assessing the Linux Mint desktops and eventually settled on Cinnamon, where I've been ever since. Interesting to see how this pans out. Phil. So, my personal view is that I think there may well be people who will take over from Wimpress, but I don't think they should. Not because, I mean, I know Linux should always have choice, and choice is great, and blah, blah, blah. But if anybody's used Mate recently, it it is now really starting to look dated. It really is, and I know that some people have the nostalgia for the GNOME 2 days, but there is a bit of functionality also that you need, and so I wonder whether it might be better just to concentrate on Cinnamon if you want a traditional desktop paradigm or KDE. But I suppose choice is good. There'll always be, I suppose, some people who think it's a good idea. And yes, it will be interesting to see how this pans out. Um, you do worry, don't you, that sometimes so many projects just hinge on one person. It's the same with like Ubuntu Unity. That's been, Rudra Saraswat, who set that up. He was basically a one-man band, and then he went to university. He had busier stuff. He had stuff to do rather than um, maintaining a Linux distro. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this pans out. What do you guys think?
I'm also of the thought, it's everything has its day. I had a great time. People enjoyed it, but think energy, like with Martin, who's more into Nix OS now, and that's more of his passion. So yeah, let it go. That would be my opinion.
Great. Now you said that, yeah. Now I've got the Frozen song in my head. All right. Okay. So, check this out. We have the article from TechLaw about the Brave Origin review. So, if anybody wants to look into that, we are not sponsored by them. However, I do get paid loads of money if you download it. I'm just joking. I wish that was true. All right. So, time for some housekeeping and announcements. Thank you for listening to this episode of mintCast. If you see something you think we should be talking about, tell us. Send us an email at mintcast@mintcast.org. Join us live on YouTube. Post at the mintcast subreddit, which, to be fair, I very rarely go on. Chat with us on Discord or Telegram. Discord seems to be the place where all the cool kids hang out. Our next episode will be 2 p.m. US Central Time on Sunday, May the 10th, 2026. And there's a link to get that converted to your time zone in the show notes. The next roundtable will be at 2 p.m. US Central Time on Saturday, May the 2nd, 2026. Open invitation. Anybody can come, talk about whatever you like to talk about. Have a go at me for being an idiot. I don't mind. I mean, I am married, so I'm used to that. There's also a link to get that converted to your time zone in the show notes. Livestream information is at mintcast.org/livestream. Wrapping up. Go ahead, Joe.
Well, if you like the sound of my voice, I'm on a couple other podcasts. I'm on the Linux Link Tech Show, which you can find at tlts.org. I'm on the Linux Lugcast, which is linuxlugcast.com. You can send me an email, jb@mintcast.org, or there's a link in the show notes to buy me a coffee on Ko-fi. I've also had my two helpers with me today, my dog Osiris and the cat that was just up here on my shoulder acting like a parrot. That's Galileo.
Galileo.
Moss couldn't be here with us today, but you can catch him on Full Circle Weekly News, moss@bodhilinux.com. He's on Mastodon at Zyvola at hosttux.social, and occasionally he's on HBR. Bill wasn't feeling well today. He's bill@mintcast.org, bill_h on Discord, at WCHauser3 at fostodon.org, on Mastodon, and also check out his other podcast, Linux OTC with Eric and Majid. Majid?
So you can email me at drmajid@mintcast.org. I'm Atypical Doctor on Discord. I have the Atypical Doctor podcast, and I also have podcasts with Bill and Eric, Linux OTC, and with Dale with the Distro Hoppers Digest. Eric couldn't be here today, but he can be reached at email at eric@mintcast.org. Charles?
All right, yes, you can reach me at charles@mintcast.org, and I'm Mr. PDX on Discord.
Jim couldn't be with us. You can get him at jim@mintcast.org. He's GNU to Linux on Discord, and he also has his YouTube channel, The Linux Shortcut, on YouTube. Charlie?
I'm Chuck2, Immutable Charlie on Discord. My email is charlie@mintcast.org, and I'm generally on the Linux OTC, but it seems I've been kicked off already. Nobody mentioned me there.
Oh, sorry. It's just we haven't updated. That's what it is. Don't always use Harlan's razor. Do not ascribe to malice that which can be adequately described by incompetence. All right?
Yeah.
So, anywho, before we leave, want to make sure to acknowledge some of the people who make mintCast possible. Bill, for our audio editing and hosting the server, which runs our website maintenance, Nextcloud server, on which we host our show notes and raw audio. He does a lot of work. I mean, I'm only saying this because he's not here, because I don't have to say it to his face. But, we do genuinely thank Bill and all the effort he puts in for all the stuff that he does, because he does a lot. And at the same time, trundling around the country and having 50 bajillion kids. Archive.org for hosting our audio files, Hubstar for our logo, Londoner for our time sinks and various other contributions. I like to think of Londoner as our fact checker, or like BBC Verify, something like that. Anyway, and of course, the Linux Mint development team for the fine distro we love to talk about. Thanks, Clem.
Thanks, Clem.
And that's a wrap. So this was us shortening it down, was it? Really?
Well,
Managed to make it 3
I
hours.
blame Jim.
Are we off?
Jim went
are we
out of his
fine?
way on this one to make it long.
Anyway, I better stop Craig, innit? What is
I'm
Probably
gonna
a good
stop
idea
the
to stop
stream
Craig.
because it's already like